Hi, everyone. There may be a few more coming in from the lobby, but I know there's something big on today at 8 p.m. with the game that we want to get through this as best we can. All right. So I'm going to get started. Confirmation online's ready to go? Great. Thank you. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Port Phillip City Council. The City of Port Phillip respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of this land, the people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We acknowledge and uphold their continued relationship to this land. This meeting is being conducted in a hybrid style and is streamed via Council's webcast page and Facebook Live. Streams and recordings of Council meetings are copyrighted and cannot be altered, reproduced, or republished without the permission of Council. If we experience any technical difficulties this evening, we will adjourn the meeting for a short time to resolve the issue. I remind attendees that any member of the public addressing Council must extend due courtesy and respect to Council and the processes under which it operates, and must take direction from the Chair whenever called on to do so. Speakers must remain respectful, and statements or questions must not be defamatory, offensive, or objectionable, aimed at embarrassing a councillor or a member of Council staff, or relate to a matter outside of the powers of Council. So like I said, we're going to try to make this as timely as we can, but you can see there's quite a few people here tonight. There's a few items of business we'll work through first, and then we'll get to the public question time. So first we're going to go to request to attend by electronic means. I've been advised by the CEO that we have received a request from Councillor Crawford to attend electronically for tonight's meeting, but I also know that Councillor Crawford is running a little bit late, so we're going to work through this, but she will join us. So councillors, I now seek a mover for the motion that Council approves the request to attend the meeting electronically received from Councillor Crawford. Thank you, Councillor Nyagri, and seconded by Councillor Sirikoff. Okay, thank you. Now put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. On to apologies. Councillor Clark is away on leave from the 28th of July to the 20th of August 2023. Councillors, do we have any further apologies? She'll be joining us. So that's once Councillor Crawford joins us, we don't have any more apologies. On to the minutes of the previous meetings. Councillors, the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 2nd of August 2023 have been circulated. Are there any questions regarding the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to confirm these minutes? Councillor Bond to move, Councillor Martin to second. Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. On to declarations of conflicts of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest in a matter being discussed at tonight's meeting? CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. I have an interest in a confidential item being discussed later tonight. I will leave the room while that discussion takes place, and Joanne McNeil will step in for me during that time.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I have an interest which I'll disclose. It's not a conflict of interest, but I'll disclose an interest in the 10.2 and also Kerford Road's 10.1, isn't it? Shrine
Yes.
Sea? Yeah, so Shrine Sea, in terms of I own a property that is adjacent to Kerford Road, and my family also owns properties around Kerford Road. But again, I'll disclose as an interest, but not a conflict of interest.
Thank you. Anybody else want to declare a conflict of interest or an interest? All right, we'll move on then. We have a condolence motion tonight that's been added to the agenda. This is for Simon Gooderidge. I'm going to ask Councillor Peter Martin to read out a little bit more about Simon.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a prepared statement that the council officers put together, but before I go to the prepared statement, we as councillors get to know some of the very senior members of the council, but we don't often get a chance to establish relationships with people perhaps who aren't quite at the executive level. But through our work in planning, we get to work with our planning officers very, very, very closely. And we, Gateway Ward Council, have been privileged for the last, well, those who've been, Councillor Pearl's been around for 7 years, I've been around for 3. We've been privileged to work with Simon Guthridge. So I've got a prepared statement here, which is going to be a little difficult to read. I'm sad to say that 2 weeks ago, Simon Guthridge passed away. Simon was a well-respected member of Council's planning department and a wonderful friend and colleague. And and some of his colleagues are sitting over there, and if you look at their faces, you'll see what he meant to them. Simon commenced with city development when they were located at the South Melbourne Town Hall, when it was still the South Melbourne City Council. He ended up serving our community for over 30 years, giving incredible service and making an enormous contribution to the City Development Department, the organisation and our city. Simon was held in the highest esteem by his team, peers, managers and councillors, and was very much respected by the planning and development industry. While Simon will always be remembered as an excellent planner, he will also be remembered for his calmness, kindness and generous spirit, which touched everyone, especially those who worked closely with Simon over the years and who flourished under his guidance. Simon leaves a lasting legacy in our city and was deeply involved in a multitude of projects throughout his career, and these include the formation of the Fisherman's Bend Planning Controls and Guidelines, the first primary school and public park in Fisherman's Bend, ensuring build-to-rent developments provided 6% affordable housing in the area, over $1.4 billion of development approvals were achieved between July 2020 and March 21 in Fisherman's Bend under his guidance. He worked on most of the block buildings developed in our municipality. I'm sure you've seen his legacy on television. He was strong in protecting our heritage, and he had major say in the redevelopment of the Victoria Hotel, the Emerald Hill Library and St Vincent's Orphanage. I know his colleagues in the planning department have been quite distressed in recent weeks as Simon's health deteriorated, even towards the end as he battled some difficult circumstances. He was still staying closely involved, even providing advice to his colleagues about work in the city of Port Phillip. He spent the majority of his career working towards wonderful outcomes for our city, and we were very, very lucky to have him. So I commend this condolence to you. And again, can I acknowledge Donna and her team over there who've come along to pay their respects, and I know that his family are listening in as well. So a very, very sad loss to our city.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillors, I now seek someone to move the motion that Council expresses its deep regret on the passing of Simon Gooderidge, offers its sincere condolences to their family, and places on record its appreciation for their service to the City of Port Phillip. Councillor Martin to move, Councillor Baxter to second. Thank you. All right, we'll take that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Thank you all. All right, we're on to public question and submissions. This will be on the report items. Under Council's governance rules, questions can only be asked about items not on the agenda. Therefore, if you're speaking to an agenda item tonight, please note I will not refer these to an officer for a response. However, a councillor may wish to take up the question on your behalf when the item is considered. Now, due to the large amount of speakers tonight, each person will have 2 minutes to speak. I've got a very loud buzzer that will go off, and I please ask that you keep to time. I know not everybody will be able to get all their points out, but if someone before you has already made your point, you do not have to speak, but you are welcome to speak. The microphone should already be on. Can we see if the light's on? Yeah? Thank you. Should already be on. And when I call your name, please come up, sit there. You'll need to say your name and your suburb, and you'll have that 2 minutes to start. Are any of our virtual callers on yet? Not yet. Okay, so normally we start with the virtual, but we're going to move to the one in the room. I really ask that we're respectful. There's divided views on the big topics tonight. I don't think that we need, or it's not that. Please refrain from yelling out, disrupting. Let people have their say. We can all be really civilized about this and get through it. And I think we're ready to start. I'll call upon Michael Barrett, submitting a question to Council. Hi, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Michael Barrett. I'm from Port Melbourne. I should also point out that I'm the representative of the Liberal Party of Victoria State Electoral Committee, and I'm speaking on that in that basis tonight. I'd like to address my question to Chris Lucas, if I could, the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Port Phillip. Chris.
Oh, sorry, please don't mention officers' names.
Okay.
That's right.
Chris, sorry, my apologies. In regards to ratepayers in the City of Port Phillip and ratepayers across Australia generally, they've got one simple thing that they ask for, which is the garbage to be picked up. And in regards to the recent change of contractor by the City of Port Phillip, in my opinion, this has been a poorly designed, expensive mess. A poorly scoped out and designed tender document combined with insufficient understanding of the key metrics, including GPS and locational data, required to successfully effect the changeover by the City of Port Phillip, has led to the implementation of a crisis management process that I estimate to have cost ratepayers somewhere between $500,000 and $800,000. I believe that these additional costs to ratepayers should be compensated not through increased rates and charges in FY24, rather the cost should be borne by the City of Port Phillip by withdrawing funds earmarked for other City of Port Phillip projects. Now, I know you're going to say, don't worry, Michael, the City of Port Phillip has got clauses within the contract document which will legally recover all of this ratepayers' money. However, I believe that the additional ratepayer funds spent on legal representation by the City of Port Phillip, perhaps up to an additional $500K, will only
Michael,
send...
sorry, you said you were submitting a question to Council. What is the question?
The question is, to close out, Councillor Roshena Campbell from the City of Melbourne and myself both believe in transparent government.
Can you get to the question, please?
And it's on this basis that we ask for a review of the City of Port Phillip processes relating to the recent calling for tenders.
Sorry, without a question, you're going to have to stop. You've been over your 2 minutes. It's not fair to come and not follow the rules.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. I now call upon... Are we going to the virtual or in the room? Do we only have the one virtual? All right, I'll go a few more in the room to see if a few more come. Thank you. I call upon Karen Hardage, speaking to item 10.1, trying to see draft Masterplan advocacy.
Hello, my name is Karen Hardage and I've been a resident of Kerford Road for 15 years. I live in Albert Park. Why does the council ignore the very people it's supposed to represent, the local residents? We have already had robust community consultation. The public spoke out against a separated bike path by way of petitions and the in-person pop-up with the Department of Transport. They heard us loud and clear, and this is why they removed the separated bike path from the project. To reiterate, here are some of our concerns. I'm concerned for my next-door neighbour who has 2 toddlers, carrying them across a bike path to load them and a pram into their vehicle. I'm concerned about my 9-year-old who may well forget about the bike path and open her door onto oncoming cyclists. I'm concerned about the future-proofing of charging of electric vehicles. Would it be okay if I run a cord across the bike path to charge my car? I'm concerned for the safety of my elderly neighbour who washes her car out front. Is it okay to run the hose across the bike path? I'm concerned that as a result of the reduction in traffic lanes, that the traffic will become more congested and that it will become even more difficult to cross Kerford Road as a pedestrian. There is nothing in the Shrine to Sea plans that add to the pedestrian safety on Kerford Road. Exactly how are we pedestrians meant to meant to access the proposed new garden spaces? There is not one formal pedestrian crossing between Canterbury Road and Beaconsfield Parade. When the traffic is reduced to 1 lane, we will be forced to stop all oncoming traffic so that we can park out front of our homes. This will be very stressful for the resident parking, not to mention frustrating for all of the drivers. Has the council also considered the traffic congestion that will be caused on bin day? Given that the road already has plenty of space in the median strip for a lovely garden, plenty of road for cars to travel on, and a very spacious bike path, it is hard to understand why you would compromise the safety and accessibility for the rest of the community and at such an expense. Thank you.
I'm not on. Thank you very much. I'm going to go. I will accept applause, no booing, please. Okay, is that a fair rule? Pardon? No, not from me. I'm not taking it from me. No, not from me. All right, can we go to the online ones? Yeah? All right, so I'll call upon Vicky Ho, speaking to item 10.1, Shrine to Sea. Vicky, can you hear us? Vicky, you might have to unmute. Oh, I think I have to tell you that. Yes, she's unmuted. Thank you. All right. Vicky, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Vicky. Say your name, suburb, and you have 2 minutes, please.
Name Vicky, suburb South Melbourne. I just got a question. Is the bike lanes really working? Because my husband got, bang over in Park Street and Moray Street.
So, Vicky, I have you down to also speak to item 10.1. Can you keep going on that submission, please?
That's all the question I have.
Oh, sorry. We might have had an error in how it was written down. So you're not actually speaking to Shrine to See. You just had that question?
It is. So the Shrine to See has also got bike lanes as well. Is it not?
That is what's in the proposal written down, yes?
Yep. So just want to know if the bike lanes, how is the bike lanes going? Is it staying? Is it working, basically?
All right. Thank you. All right. I'm going to refer to Nellie Montague. Sorry? There's a question. No? Okay. All right. Vicky, thank you for calling in. It is a tricky question because it relates to something on the agenda. So the rules are that you can come and speak to ask a question of council, or you can come and speak to an item on the agenda. That's the rules. So I'm sorry that question, we can take it on notice and have an answer in the minutes for you. I'm trying to make a fair balance here to get us all out of here in time. Well, we won't make the game, but, All right. Hopefully part of it. We are going to have a full council meeting to get through the agenda items tonight. Please do not interrupt through the gallery, all right? Thank you. Now, Molly's online. All right, Molly Lewis, can you hear us? If you can't, you'll need to unmute, please.
Was that a yes? You can hear me?
Yes, now I can. Hi, Molly. Molly Lewis,
Hi.
name, suburb, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Marley Lewis. I live in the Port Phillip Council area in South Melbourne. I've just moved there from Port Melbourne, having lived in Port Melbourne for 4 years. I'm here to urge the council to support the separated bike lanes or the median strip bike lanes in the Shrine to See project. I'm a member of a one-car family, and I use a bike to get around a lot. Before I was on maternity leave, I was commuting to work 3 days a week along the Bay Trail to Brighton, which is not the most direct way for me to get there, but it is the safest. This year, when I'm on maternity leave, I'm using a cargo bike to get me and my child around. I found myself avoiding roads like Kerford Road in favour of roads that have the completely separated bike lane simply because they're far, far safer. So I've been spending a lot of time on St Kilda Road, which is City of Melbourne. So as a result, I'm spending a lot of money and time in City of Melbourne rather than Port Phillip. I'm a very confident bike rider, but now that I have a baby, I can really understand how people are reluctant to move towards active transport options when there are limited protected paths, particularly along major transport corridors, such as Kerford Road. Today, I rode along Kerford Road in the cargo bike with my baby just before 4 p.m. Only 3 cars passed me. So I'm not really sure where the concerns about traffic are coming from. There's clearly capacity for the separated bike lanes to go in this location. If Port Phillip Council is serious about matters of sustainability, they need to ensure that there's suitable infrastructure that's built in order to support the active transport. Separated bike lanes will encourage more people to use sustainable transport safely, like bikes. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Troy Williams? Great. All right, Troy, you're next. Has he unmuted? Great. Hi, Troy. Can you hear us? Troy Williams, I have you speaking to item 10.1, Shrine to See. Can you try again, Troy? We don't hear you yet. Yes, he's there. Okay, try now, Troy. If not, I'll come back to you. All right. Can I come back to him? Yeah, all right. In the room, I call upon Danielle Ryan Glenhill, speaking to item 10.1, trying to see. Hi, Danielle.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Name, suburb, 2 minutes, please.
Danielle Ryan Gledhill. I'll speak for less than 2 minutes. I come from St Kilda. I've lived on Barclay Street in St Kilda for 23 years, and I've been riding a bicycle on 3 different continents for over 45 years. I ride my bicycle absolutely any time I can because I don't want to sit in traffic, I don't want to be traffic, and I don't want to contribute to fossil fuel pollution any time that I can absolutely avoid it. I'm an experienced and generally very confident rider. I'm thrilled at the completion of the separated bike lanes on St Kilda Road. They take me directly to my place of work in the city. However, in order to access those safe lanes, those beautiful protected lanes from my home, I'm forced to choose whichever route feels the least dangerous on any given day. In many ways, being a cyclist in Melbourne feels like a lottery where I'm constantly calculating the odds of safety of one route over another. I have been very badly hit by a car in the wrong once in my life. I've survived, I've recuperated. I really don't ever want to be hit again. I don't want anyone to be hit. My most direct options include negotiating the multiple lanes of high-speed traffic through St Kilda Junction, or navigating Albert Park and finding a place to traverse the high-speed barrier that is Kingsway. The route along St Kilda foreshore and up Kerford Road to the New Anzac Station, the Shrine to Sea route, means that I or anyone coming to or from St Kilda can take a less harrowing and infinitely more scenic route than the terror that is St Kilda Junction. The funnel of Albert Road provides one of the few places where it feels safer and direct to cross Kingsway on a bicycle. The broad swathe of Kerford Road beyond that is a natural alternative bicycle route for any commuter, recreational rider, tourist, or just local person going about their business. By riding there, I do not contribute to noise levels, I do not contribute to pollution on the street. I look after the roads and areas where I ride.
Thank you. 2 minutes is faster than you think, isn't it? All right, thank you. Are we going back online to Troy? You've got him? All right, Troy Williams, can you hear us?
Yes, good afternoon.
Oh, fantastic. It's working now. Okay, name, suburb, 2 minutes, please.
My name is Troy Williams. I'm a member of Albert Park community, and I'm also a fellow bike rider. I appreciate the stories that we've heard tonight. However, my concern is that a separated bike lane will not address the safety concerns that have been raised today. We have seen across Port Phillip the attempt at introducing bike lanes has failed, and I do not believe that Kerford Road is an appropriate bike path. I am deeply concerned about the congestion it will cause. I'm deeply concerned about the safety of cars turning in front of my bike on a dedicated bike lane, as we have seen in a number of areas across Port Phillip, and I'm concerned about the congestion and the trucks. I typically travel on the bike on Kerford Road of a morning, and there is many cars and very few bikes. I do not believe it is an appropriate use of time or money to introduce that. I'm also concerned about the number of parking spaces that are going to be removed and forcing traffic into the local community and searching for parking spaces. So I object to the separated bike lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Just so you know, we have 30 speakers that are on my list. So we'll go back now into the room. Leanne Plank, can you come on down, please? Speaking in 10.1 as well. Hi, Leanne.
Hi, my name is Leanne Plank. I live in Albert Park and I live in Hambleton Street, just off Kerford Road. My concerns, I have 3 major concerns. First, council appears not to have chosen an option or to have chosen an option on bike lane without any appropriate community co-design consultation on options. We've had over 2,000 objections to a pretty much an equivalent proposal in the past, and it really needs some co-design and working through the issues in details, not just trying to push it through. There doesn't appear to be an objective assessment of the other options for the bike lane. If you look at the papers presented, it has things like showing traffic impact during peak lower for moving to 1 lane than 2 lanes, which makes no sense. It does not mention any major safety issues which will result from one lane of Kerford Road pushing traffic into local streets like myself and others that are not designed for through traffic. I know this from a purpose because with the Montesquieu Street closure, I now get 30% more traffic, and I've come close to having 5 accidents in my street because of that extra traffic. And this is way bigger than that. Option 3 for the bike lane in the medial strip is a far more equitable solution. We have 50 metres wide. We have the length of an Olympic swimming pool to play. If we can't meet all the needs together collectively without one completely dominating the others, we've got a problem in terms of that. So I vote that we basically start looking at bike lanes through the medial strip and looking at that to be more equitable for it. I'm a bike rider. I know what it is to ride down there. I ride down there regularly. So that's trying to meet the other needs. So they're the 3 key issues that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leanne. Next, I call upon Andrew Cocking, speaking to item 10.1.
Hello,
Hi, Andrew.
My name's Andrew Cocking. I've been a resident for 25 years, adjacent to
Suburb?
Albert Park.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Resident to pretty much Kerford Road, Canterbury Road for 15 years. Basically, I'm asking, and I don't know if it's in the power to do this, but for the council to delay their decision for tonight. And the reason why tonight is because it's only been since Sunday night through a person on a personal Facebook group who informed that I was informed that this was even a live issue. And I've just spoken to probably about half a dozen people on Kerford Road who are in the same position. No one knew that this was a live issue. They thought it was dead duck in the water a year ago. That year ago, in February, there was some lovely consultation and some feedback, and then the council itself, I think it was, had a result, and basically it appeared to me, and I'm not a dumb person, that this issue was a non-issue, so took no notice of it. I put it to you that whoever the person responsible for informing the residents was very lack. Websites, if I was to go to a website or the council department to try to transfer, I have to look for it. It was not given to me. There was no letter drop. So this is why I'm not prepared tonight. And I think that a council to make a decision tonight could be disingenuous because you haven't had the chance for the people, whether they're for it or against it, the proposal in full or whatever, to give you feedback. And there could be some really good ideas. I'm not personally 100% against it. I'm against the actual the bike lane as it stands. Kerford Road is a lovely, probably one of the best boulevards in Victoria, if not Australia. It pretty much presents, I think, well for every person, including pedestrians, bicyclists and motorists. However, there are a few choke points at Richardson Street. Thank you.
There's 2 minutes.
I'll try to get
you.
as much as possible.
Thank you, Andrew. I do want to take the opportunity to clarify what the item that we're voting on tonight for 10.1 actually is. It's to tell the state government if this is something that we thought they should consult with the community on. And I expect a few steps down the road, but I just want to clarify, we're not voting to go build this tomorrow. It's about whether or not we think that the state government should take this up at any point, and then they'll go do community consultation with the community. Sorry, no back and forth, I'm sorry.
I was just about for that. It was purely to do with informing the public, that's all.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. I just wanted to clarify that so that it's right for the record, okay? Let's keep moving through.
12 months ago?
Excuse me?
Didn't they consult 12 months ago?
Sorry, we're not going to have this back and forth. We'll clarify if there's a... we'll ask questions at the beginning of the item, if that would help you, okay? Does that sound good? All right. I call upon Henry Green, speaking to item 10.1. All right, so question. Got it. Hello, Henry.
Hello.
Name, suburb, and we'll give you 2 minutes. Good?
My name is Henry Green. I live in the suburb of Balaclava in Port Phillip. And I'm here today because I want to say how important the separated cycle lanes would be for the younger generation. A lot more people would be cycling if we had safe and permanent bike lanes, because they would not have to worry about today's traffic and what challenges might be presented by all the cars on the road. I've had 5 scary runs with cars. One of those times I actually got hit. 5 too many, I think. We also need bike lanes because it would also provide people with a safer place to ride, even than the footpath, because that's not safe for the pedestrians either, because think about it, someone running late for work might be going fast, and if they hit a pedestrian, that's just going to hurt for both people. As a family who has chosen not to have a car and use bikes as our form of transport, it's sometimes very unsafe not to have bike lanes, because it means that if we're riding, we can sometimes cause traffic to be disrupted or have accidents. It's also, when we need to get to the shops, school, or work, it's sometimes a bit time-consuming to have to look out for the cars and stop. Bike lanes would also make our city more sustainable because, well, we wouldn't have to rely on cars with fossil fuels as our source of transport. And that's why I want you to support the Cycleway from Shrine to Sea.
Thank you very much, Henry. I call upon Norbert Orbenshauser, speaking to item 10.1. Hi, Norbert.
Hi there.
Names.
Norbert. I live in Albert Park. I haven't prepared anything, but first thing I want to say, I do not support the advocacy of putting the proposal to the state government for that works. It's been attempted previously on quite a few occasions with very little consultation with the residents of the area. My particular concern is the the Kerford Road crossover between Montague and Herbert. It was poorly thought out. I was one of the lead instigators in setting up a petition which opposed a previous petition of 26 people, and we, I think, had 258. There are 258 people that did not want the crossover closed, yet the council decided to close it. I attempted and gave suggestions as to how to better make the intersection. Now, they weren't listened to. There was no choice made. The council had already steamrolled their own way. Their road traffic person, they just listened to his consultation and didn't take care of any notice of anybody else. Also, the thing is, previously mentioned with Hambledon Street. Hambledon Street has become quite a busy road. I myself have to use that road now because I can't get across the crossover. So I'm one of that 30% extra traffic that now goes down there. Blocking that intersection off, I want that open. The trial period has been for many, many years. It's time to put it back to as it was. It should go back to as it was because the trial should have been over. It's a long time gone. There already is a bike path down there. It just needs a little bit of cleaning up. There's already an existing one which is safe, which is off the thoroughfare of the traffic already. The closure of the Kerford crossover, it just makes it difficult to get across. Like always having to go through Hambledon Street or whatever is a huge inconvenience.
Thank you, Norbert.
Thank you very much.
On the back of that one, I just want you to know that the Shrine to Sea community engagement is open again, just so everyone knows that it opened on Monday for 28 days. So comments like that would be perfect to go on their website, Shrine to Sea. Shrine to Sea is doing in the next phase, so they're doing biodiversity, so more greening, changing that. So if you haven't heard about that, you might have seen something in your letterbox.
I only heard about this 3 days ago.
Okay, look in your letterbox. There should be a postcard from the state government. All right. I call upon Heidi Ireland, speaking to item 10.1. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, thank you. My name's Heidi Island and I'm a resident of Kerford Road. There are many good things associated with the Shrine to Sea plan, however a parking separated bike lane on Kerford Road is not one of them. This will be the third time I've spoken out against this specific issue, so I'm pretty well versed in this dangerous and impractical initiative. At its heart, this is a resident issue, which is why you've seen unmatched community organisation against it. We've provided multiple highly compelling petitions and turned out in droves at the one and only event that was organised to speak to residents in April last year. In the first instance, we had to fight for our voice to be heard, and once it was, DOT confirmed in a personal letter to me that due to the practical issues raised and the overwhelming community support against the issue, they would not be pursuing it. In the second instance earlier this year, the issue was brought back in the form of 5 new design solutions to be presented to the community for consultation. This never happened. In many emails and phone calls later, including a consult with Nina Taylor, we were notified that State would again no longer be pursuing the issue due to practical issues raised and overwhelming community support against it. So here we are again today, except this time we aren't up against the State but our own council. What makes Kerford Road parking separated bike lane dangerous and impractical is complex and unique to Kerford Road. And whilst I don't have the time to present the detail, I'm very much invite the conversation if necessary. I ask Council tonight to 1, please vote no on parking separated bike lane, and 2, please explore practical solutions to make Kerford Road safer for all, not just cyclists, whilst maintaining residential parking and safe access to our homes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I call upon Lee Hardy, speaking on behalf of West St Kilda Residents Association on item 10.1. Hi, Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee Hardy, President of the West St Kilda Residents Association. Talking on the recommendation, which is to prepare a formal council submission to the draft master plan. 3 points. Firstly, Kerford Road. Secondly, impact on motorists. Thirdly, crossing of Kingsway. We strongly disagree with the advocacy of the proposed changes to Kerford Road. We believe there's compelling community concern to the proposed changes, reducing to 1 lane, 40 kilometres limit, loss of parking, etc. It will be a huge waste of time for council and the community if the previously rejected proposals are brought back on the agenda. In West St Kilda, there's concern about pushing more rat-running traffic through the streets and also the added difficulties of entering and leaving our area if things are done to Kerford Road as proposed. Second point, which is on the impact on motorists, Council should be requiring the Shrine to Sea report to focus on and provide data on the impact of the changes on motorists. In particular, the Kingsway Albert Road intersection is a major transport corridor for local residents. The Shrine to Sea initiative should be focusing on improving access and movement to motorists as well as to bikes and pedestrians. Third point, Shrine to Sea project has failed to significantly address the barrier that Kingsway causes to a Shrine to Sea boulevard. We believe that Council should be focusing on the need for this as the key focus of a response. An attractive pedestrian cyclist overpass would be a major improvement for pedestrians, cyclists and motorists in opening up the boulevard. So going back to the first one, the Kerford Road, our concern is that residents seem to be reacting to things that Council is doing to us rather than seeing what Council is doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I call upon Janet Belitho, speaking to item 10.1. Hello, Janet.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. It's so rare in the life of a council.
Janet, sorry to stop you.
Janet
I know.
Belitho
of everyone who should
Port
know
Melbourne.
this as a former councillor and mayor.
Anyway, I'm from Port Melbourne.
Thank you.
And I'm a senior and I'm a bike rider. And it's so rare in the life of a council for a project to come before it that is truly transformational. And the Shrine to Sea is such a project as originally conceived, bringing the delights and the parklands of the Shrine area to the sea, connecting them seamlessly. And this is what the protected bike lane plays such a crucial role in. It's an essential part of it, but it's only part of it. The protected bike lane, together with lowered speeds and a median that, instead of being a median, becomes a beautiful landscape park. All these things together will make Kerford Road function differently, feel differently. The median will be a place where people will choose to spend time because the trees will be beautiful, there'll be landscaping. It has the capacity to be truly transformational, and all those elements will work together. Now, the Council Officer report puts before you 12 different reasons to support option 2. In addition, there are environmental benefits, climate benefits, urban heat island benefits. All the benefits stack up for option 2. When we can, as a council, consider a project, the multiple benefits to the community must be considered, not to one interest group or another interest group, but the whole of community in every facet. And this is what this project has the capacity to provide. Option 1 should be discounted on safety grounds alone. Okay.
Thank you, Janet. I call upon Derek Samuel, speaking to item 10.1. Hi, Derek.
I'm Derek Samuel. I'm on Victoria Avenue in Albert Park. I'm glad Henry is here because I think they are the missing voice in the whole of this program. I'm a father of 3 and have taken them through both the primary school and the high school in our area. My daughters are a founding student to the high school, and I've been in the area for 16 years. And I think that there were only 200 students in the primary school when I moved in. There is now a high school which has got over 1,000 students in it. They all commute on a daily basis to both the primary school and the high school, not to mention the primary schools in Middle Park, the one in South Melbourne and the ones in Port Melbourne. That's an increase of thousands of students into our area since I've moved in. And I think it is a very important part that this council protect the children of our communities with having safe and protected cycling environments. The fact that we've seen an increase in SUV vehicles and high-powered SUV vehicles and increase in traffic. I've actually even put a proposal in to say that to monitor the speeding on Victoria Avenue because that is a disaster waiting to happen. Now, I just think that the children of our community and the voiceless people of this process, and I think that they really need to be considered and have not been mentioned. And when the young children grow up, they are going to want to have safer cycling areas. I want to protect them from the motorists who are inflicting damage and harm to cyclists, leaning out of cars and swinging bats, hitting them with their rear vision mirrors because they're so close, throwing bottles out. And these are all factual things that have been noted and have happened to cyclists. The person that got hit by the wing mirror is actually dead. You know, that's how close the driver got to him. I was personally punched 7 times by motorcyclists using the bike lanes to overtake him. That's the people I want to protect.
Thank you, Derek. Yep. All right. So Victoria's not here. Okay. I call upon Matthew Unworth, speaking to item 10.1.
Hi, thank you for your time. Matthew Unsworth, I'm a resident of Albert Park. I live just around the corner from Kerford Road. I've been in the area for nearly 20 years. I'm a regular cyclist and I'm a keen advocate of getting more people out of cars and onto bikes. But it's got to be done properly, and in this situation I do not support the proposal to create a segregated or a protected bike lane. I'd like to know why the City of Port Phillip wants to progress its own independent plans to construct this protected bike lane corridor in Kerford Road. despite massive resident opposition to the project, and especially so given that it's been specifically excluded from the scope of the state government-funded Shrine to Sea project. I'd like to know what influence the state government has imposed on council with respect to the Shrine to Sea project. I'd also like to know why this council, against obvious recognition of resident opposition, has not instead tried to develop a better design solution to the existing bike lane supported by a traffic impact report, assessing the impact on all users. I'd like to know how the council thinks that any decision can be made on this proposal at any time, given a lack of necessary detail. There's ample width, as we've heard, along Kerford Road to accommodate parking, a bike lane, 2 lanes of traffic in both directions, as already exists today. The residents have made it very clear that we don't want this. I plead with you to stop making unnecessary changes to our heritage streetscapes. Enough money is already being wasted by council in that regard. I request that you abandon this proposal and instead consider a better design solution, as I said, that works for everybody, and at the very least commission a traffic impact report assessing the impact to all users. The residents have already voiced their objection to this. That's very clear, and we deserve a council that listens to us.
Thank you, Matthew. I call upon Campbell Spence, speaking item 10.1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm Campbell Spence, Middle Park. I wish to speak to this motion and specifically attachment 5, which advocates council's position on the Shrine to Sea. I support items 2.1 and 2.7 because they provide significant improvements to Albert Park Road, and I support increasing the tree canopy and biodiversity. However, I don't support item 2.8, which advocates the construction of a separated bike lane corridor and removal of 2 lanes of traffic. Residents were genuinely shocked and surprised that council are putting this proposal back on the table when large numbers of residents opposed the same concept presented by DTP and DECA at a community meeting that I attended in April of last year, and following the 2 petitions that Heidi mentioned and representations to the Albert Park Member of Parliament. The inclusion of the proposal in the Advocacy plan is a breach of residents' trust in this council. I urge you to amend the motion and consider the following. Kerford Road is wide enough to accommodate parking, bike lanes, 2 lanes of traffic in either direction, which exists today. But the existing bike lanes are poorly designed and need to be improved to remove the blue stones, to smooth out the surface and allow cyclists to pass through the Richardson Street roundabout. Kerford Road is a major arterial road that carries large volumes of traffic during peak hours, and removing the 2 lanes will not stop drivers. It will increase congestion, divert vehicles into quiet suburban streets and create rat runs. The proposal is likely to force traffic down Mill Street and thereby increase safety risks to Middle Park primary school children. I'm nearly there.
One line.
I urge you to consider a better design option that works for everyone. Thank you.
I call upon Graham Patton, speaking to item 10.1. Hi, Graham.
My name's Graham Patton. I've lived in the area for 50 years and I'm from Albert Park.
Thank you.
I want to speak against the closure of Montague and Herbert Streets at Kerford Road to vehicles crossing Kerford Road, currently a temporary closure. This ignores the local residents' wishes. If council is not addressing community requests, then it is not doing its job. It is divisive to the community, preventing the easy crossing of Kerford Road to connect the eastern side of Albert Park with the western side shops and facilities. A past example of a major division in South Melbourne was introduction of Kings Way, which created a permanent division to South Melbourne. This proposal at Montague Herbert Streets will be inconvenient. Closing roads always has a detrimental effect in other locations. It pushes traffic, in this case, onto Mill Street, Canterbury Road and Merton Street and Kerford Road, with fewer traffic lane spaces to absorb additional cars. The wiggly junction of Dank Street with Kerford Road has been very successful. The same solution can be put in place at Montague Herbert Street. It just needs to be wanted and it can be designed. I want to address the issue of the Shrine to Sea proposal. As a cyclist and a driver, I am a supporter of the use of the service roads in Albert Road for cycles, provided the requirement to use the service roads is enforced. But the additional bike lanes in Kerford Road and reduction in vehicle lanes amounts to really urban vandalism. We don't need it. It doesn't add value. It's a loss of local amenity. The Victorian and State and Port Phillip Council cannot afford it. There has been a petition against this proposal, as previously said tonight. The bike lanes raise the issue of safety. We know that bike lanes provide an element of safety for cyclists. Unfortunately, that cannot be said for pedestrians. Cycling culture has a bad record of cycling too fast and dangerously ignoring the needs of pedestrians. With 40 km/h speed limit on our roads, it's quite safe enough for mixed traffic. You do not need bike lanes as well. Bike lanes indulge a very small part of the population, particularly the inner suburbs. Given the failure to apprehend offenders, cyclists are given a free opportunity to abuse the road rules.
Thanks, Graham. I call upon Alison from Bicycle Network. Hi, Alison.
Hi, how are you? Alison McCormack, CEO of Bicycle Network, also a Port Phillip resident. I live in St Kilda West and have done for many years. Bicycle Network supports and requests the inclusion of protected bike infrastructure on Kerford Road in the master plan. And we would like to suggest that there may even be a more viable option available than the three that are in the officer's report. Kerford Road has an extremely wide cross-section, as has been mentioned tonight, 60 metres in total, with 20 metres asphalt on either side. This is a very large amount of space, and it should not be that difficult for us working together to find a solution for parking, for through traffic, and for safe, separated bike facilities while maintaining the centre median for biodiversity planning. We know from traffic studies that have been done that 4 traffic lanes on this street is well in excess of the capacity that is needed for motor vehicles. We believe that on the Council's part, it should explore more options than the 3 that are mentioned on the report. And for the State Government's part, it should not foreclose on further options being available on the master plan. With this much space available on the street, there should be no reason for us to fight about it. And on a personal note, I can only echo the sentiments of the bike riding community that have spoken before me. We've had a mother on a cargo bike. This is now commonplace. We've got the younger generation concerned about sustainability. Commonplace. More people are riding bikes. Tonight, to get here, I rode the entire length of the beautiful new protected St Kilda bike lane. And every day I ride that bike lane, I smile at the number of people using it. There are more and more people using it. It will not diminish. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. I call upon Andrew Perkins, speaking to item 10.1. Hello, Andrew.
How are you? I'm a ratepayer of over 30 years. And
Can I just ask, because we're having a recorded meeting, you have to speak into the microphones so the people online and on Facebook can hear you. But if you want to hold it, it might work.
Okay, I'm sure that's fine. I'm a ratepayer of over 30 years. That might
They can hear you. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so that might be a little unique among the crowd, but 30 years of rates, a lot of rates. I'd like to start off with your beginning introduction about respect and the way to treat us, just as a matter of point. So I live 40 metres from Kerford Road. I worked with Norbert to work on the no cross to keep the Herbert Road open, and we presented a 258-person no petition and were defeated by a 26-person petition. But course, that was 2019, so a lot of the faces here wouldn't have been present, or maybe one, you weren't present. So, we're on the notice about democracy in this outfit. But I find it extraordinary, if we're talking about manners and respect, that I'm on every database about that. I live 40 metres from Kerford Road, and I heard by smoke that you, as a council, had announced in late Friday, another Dan Andrews trick, to release this information to come out again about bringing this matter that's already been dealt with several times. And now you have the residents out having to waste their time to deal with something that's already been to bed. You have a responsibility to act on behalf of 116,000 residents, not 40 bike riders. Do you know how many bike riders you have in the city of Port Phillip? Would you know? Could you come back with me the answer for that? Because we've got 116,000 residents. So basically, Herbert Road, that needs to be opened. I discussed about the increase of greenhouse gases. I mean, you're so, God forbidden, about greenhouse gases. Well, just making people go around further. And then the rat running that occurs. It's outrageous. And I can't help if there's one or two bike riders that get tapped by angry motorcyclists. That happens. But you have to govern on behalf of all of us. And I think you need to take great care, because acting ultra vires, if any of you have any smattering of law, could get you into a lot of personal trouble.
Thank you, Andrew. I call upon Julie Clutterbeck, speaking to item 10.1. Hi, Julie.
So I'm Julie Clutterbuck from Elwood, but tonight...
You might have to lower the microphone, please. Thank you.
Not quite as tall. So I'm Julie Clutterbuck from Elwood.
Oh, sorry, air. You still have 2 minutes.
And I'm speaking on behalf of the Port Phillip Bicycle Users Group tonight. I'm asking you to support the protected bicycle lane on Kerford Road. Sorry, my thing's just gone off. This is what was recommended by the community panel in a deliberative process during the lockdown years of 2021. They heard from all the evidence. They talked to the experts. They heard that the impact on traffic would be minimal. The impact on parking would be minimal. But the impact on safety, this is the second most unsafe council road, would be substantial, not just for cyclists, but also for drivers and for pedestrians. This is also specifically supported by a wide range of community groups. These groups include pedestrian advocacy groups, Victoria Walks, disability advocacy groups, Disability Resource Centre, who see the benefit in protected lanes, encouraging scooters off the footpath and therefore improving their accessibility. It includes environmental groups like Pecan, the Eco Centre and the Port Phillip Baykeeper, who see the need for encouraging sustainable transport. And it's also supported by public health advocates like the Heart Foundation, and they know that protected bike lanes are essential for giving people more options to include regular exercise in their everyday routine. As the council documents make clear for those of you who have read them, option 1 will not address the safety issues on Kerford Road. Option 3, the median bike lane, will require extensive signalised crossings, including of Richardson Street, which will affect peak traffic flows, including the bus on Richardson Street. So this is unlikely to even be supported by the state government, and perhaps even, well, if it's not supported, they almost certainly won't fund it. Delivery of safe transport options is a key council responsibility. With this bike lane...
Julie, can I just stop you there? I have you also registered for 10.2, so you have 2 more minutes, but if you could shift to the 10.2.
Okay. So with this bike lane, we'll head into...
Sorry, just so to clarify, just be clarified.
Yep.
No, excuse me. The rules are... Excuse me, the rules are you can speak to various items on the agenda tonight. She is registered to speak to 2 items tonight, and she's not the only one. Thank you. Andrew, I think I'll have to put you on notice. If you interrupt again, I will have to ask you to leave the gallery, please. All right, Julie, you have 2 more minutes to go on to 10.2, your other topic.
Yep. So the other item is about the integrated transport strategy, and basically the item there is to support a more flexible approach to delivering the integrated transport strategy. We support the officer's recommendation that in some streets a protected bike lane may not be necessary. These are in streets where there's very low traffic volumes and low speeds. So we support that more flexible approach there. But sort of also saying that on wide streets with a lot of traffic, with fast traffic, the best solution is always going to be a protected bike lane.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Now, Mark Naughton, you're next up, please. Mark, I also have you speaking in 10.1 and 10.2. Do you want to just roll through it? I'll give you 2 minutes for 10.1 and I'll switch you as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, Mark Naughton, Middle Park. I think you know where I'm likely to be coming from tonight is about what authority resolution you give to your administration to handle the public exhibition of Shrine to Sea. Shrine to Sea, as a draft master plan, isn't a bad document as a draft master plan. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. So 10.1 is about what you tell your administration to do in terms of advocacy. So the problem is the advocacy component that is in the report that's before you tonight at 10.1. The problem is not with the Shrine to Sea document as a draft master plan. The problem is with your administration and their handling of it.
Mark.
I'll leave it there. So the problem is attachment 5 to item 10.1. Attachment 5, which is what you are likely, and I expect will be voting on tonight, Campbell Spencer's covered off on it, what you are likely to be voting on in terms of telling your administration how to deal with the public exhibition of Shrine to Sea. So what attachment 5 as an advocacy document must do is it must remove the concept and the language that are protected curbside bike lane. Those 4 words, protected curbside bike lane, must come out of your resolved advocacy of this master plan document. And there are words around that in attachment 5 which make sense of that. You must also please remove your administration's advocacy recommendation that we reduce Kerford Road on each side from 2 lanes to 1. So you must please remove those concepts from what you resolve upon. I know you're going to resolve upon this tonight, so remove those things from attachment 5. That's all I want to say about item 10.1.
Okay, move on to
10.2.
Okay. Is that the timer?
And then I'm going to say something else about what
you got.
Councillor Martin said
2
before.
minutes.
Yeah.
10.2.
Okay. 10.2 is a monster read. I'm a wordsmith. That's what I do every day. I struggle with what is written in agenda item 10.2. The problem with agenda item 10.2 is action item 18 as recommended by your officers. Action item 18 of agenda item 10.2 is a problem. I can drive a B-double through it any day of the week in terms of what am I supposed to read into it. But insofar as it might come with concepts of protected bike lanes, curbside, etc., please do not allow any resolution you make in relation to agenda item 10.2 tonight to have any sense or feel that the sort of thing that this community is saying to you about Kerford Road be allowed to form part of any resolution you make about agenda item 10.2. So, lastly, as somebody who worked with and more often not against Simon Gutteridge, can I say through you, Madam Mayor and Councillor Martin, a beautiful man and a great loss to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's much appreciated. All right, now I have the blue forms for people who registered to speak when they got in here tonight. So, Guy Boston, I'll call upon you first to come down. I have 5 forms here. So I'll ask if there's anybody we might have missed at the end. Hi, Guy.
Mayor and councillors. I just can't believe that we're back here, honestly.
Suburb, please.
Oh, sorry. I can't believe that we're back here.
No, name and suburb, please.
Oh, Guy Boston, Middle Park.
Thank you.
Yeah, as is the case with a number of people here, I only found out about this 4 days. I thought what's happened over the last 18 months or so gave a clear enough voice and indication to our requirement for bike lanes, first of all in Kerford Road and then the pop-ups. I travel through Page Street, Harold Street, Kerford Road, Dank Street, Mills Street on a daily basis. I see Albert Park kids, I see Albert Park primary kids, I see Middle Park primary kids, I see Albert Park college kids travelling very smoothly, no angst. We couldn't be luckier to live in the municipality that we live in as it is. I don't see any point at all or any net benefit in changing things. Why do we need to change it? For sure, we can improve the markings of the bike lanes along Kerford Road, absolutely. But relatively speaking, it's a wonderful boulevard that we're so lucky to have. Why are we putting all these things at risk? What about because the traffic needs to go from A to B. A lot of the people that are going down Kerford Road in cars, they're going from A to B and they're going to continue to go from A to B and they go through Kerford Road. What they're going to do instead is go down Mill Street and put at risk pedestrians of Middle Park Primary. They're going to go down Bridport Street and Victoria Avenue, which is a lot of pedestrians of the village, and the Albert Park Primary kids. And they're going to be speeding. Where are the ambulances? Where are the fire trucks going to go if there's only one lane on Kerford Road? And the lack of consultation is so evident when you read the wording in option 2, like the road will function normally. There'll be negligible traffic delays. I'm sorry, I mightn't be the sharpest tool in the shed, but that is incorrect. Negligible traffic delays. There'll be traffic from Canterbury Road all the way down to Richardson Street roundabout and beyond.
Thank you, Guy.
Should not happen.
I call upon Deborah Bai, speaking 10.1. Hello, Deborah.
Thanks very much. My name's Deborah Bai. I live in Kerford Road, where I've lived for the last 12 years. I've been a resident of Port Phillip, of Albert Park for the last 28 years, previously in Page Street. People are speaking very emotionally tonight to oppose. I'm in support of the bike lanes for all the reasons that have been given to the council tonight by the people who are supporting it. The situation in Kerford Road is there are three intimately connected matters, and that is the speed down Kerford Road which people drive. There is also the bike lane situation, and there is the lack of crossing on Kerford Road also. So, being a bike rider, I don't have a car and haven't had a car now since '95. I walk, I'm a pedestrian, and I bike ride, and I get public transport. Kerford Road, I live quite close to the intersection of Canterbury Road. People gun it down Kerford Road, often travelling at 80 kilometres an hour. It's very obvious when people are driving at the speed limit because they are driving so much slower than everybody else. I work a lot from home. I'm a barrister and I do a lot of my preparation at home. So I am around a lot of the time doing preparation, and so I am intimately,
Sorry, it goes quick. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I call upon Ellen Martin, speaking 10.1. Hi, Ellen. Name, suburb, 2 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Ellen. My partner and I live in Caulfield North. I'm in support of the protected bike lanes down Kerford Road. I was particularly moved by Henry and his speech as a young person, and I'd also like to add my perspective as a young person in the community. My partner and I are both full-time students and we can't afford our car. Our bike is the only way of transport that we have. We're in the minority of people who feel confident to ride on roads and mingle with the cars, but the majority of people don't. protected bike lanes are an equitable way to encourage more people to active transport. It's good for the environment, it's good for sustainability. The City of Port Phillip is committed to building sustainable, healthy communities, and I think protected bike lanes are part of that. And another thing is that we know when we build transport infrastructure that the supply drives the demand. If we build protected bike lanes, people will use that, and we've seen that with St Kilda Road and the increase of cyclists down there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time reading this, but I think it's Steve Dimitrovsky.
Thank you.
Oh, hello, Steve.
G'day guys, Steve Dimitrovsky, Port Melbourne. I'd like to acknowledge all people that currently live in the area as well. I think you might have missed that in the intro. When it comes to bike lanes, I don't think there's a council in this great country of ours that has less credibility than yourselves. I'll let that sink in because I don't think...
All right, Steve, you put on notice to me about you're pushing the disrespectful. Please continue, but please, we are all humans here that are taking the information given to us and making decisions on part of the community. Please continue.
Can we please start the 2 minutes again?
No.
Just taking up 20 seconds.
20 seconds for that. There you go.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Steve.
Feels like we're on an episode of Utopia. Someone's come up with the term Shrine to Sea, and they're pushing it hard. I don't envy your position. I know the state government is quite coercive in pushing this, and they will keep pushing until they get it. As a member of the community, I implore you to look at this and see it for what it is. If we need to put in bike lanes to help the community, I'd look at the weakness in the area, and that's Pickles Street. Kerford Road right now, if you look at all the bike lanes, it's one of the best bike lanes we have. Up the road, sure, fix it if you can beyond Kerford, but Pickles Street's a real issue. We've got school students from Albert Park College there. We're about to spend $14 million on a sports field just off Pickles Street there. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to ride their bikes there. You've got a huge opportunity here to take the debacle of the bike lanes in the past, actually involve yourselves in the community, find the weakness in the bike lanes. Don't just listen to the state government because they're pushing it, and they're pushing hard. We understand that. We understand who they are and what they do. But do it for the community and look at the weakness in the bike lane to make it a positive thing. You've got a huge opportunity, guys. Go from the worst to the best if you've got the guts.
Thanks, Steve. All right. One more. I have Heather McDonald to speak to 10.1. Heather, are you here? Thank you. Now, is there anybody else who... Okay, did you fill out a blue form?
No, I applied online and...
Oh, sorry, he just made... Are you Ron?
No.
No? You're Ron? Yep, okay. Can you see the people here at the desk, please? Sorry, who else? Can you come see the people at the desk so we could make sure we captured you? All right, sorry about this, Heather.
It's okay. Can you hear?
If you just wait, let me just the room quiet down. If you guys can, if people want to leave, take the opportunity to go. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. And you come, speak to them. The governance team will help you out. Thank you. And whoever wants to go, and Heather, if you just wait 1 minute, I think it'll be a bit more quiet in here.
They're all going to watch the game.
Well, I reckon it's 10 minutes till kick-off for those watching. Okay, Heather, can you say your name, suburb, and you have 2 minutes, please?
Yep, my name's Heather McDonald.
I'm leaving first.
See you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. All right, Heather, your turn.
My name's Heather McDonald. I live in St Kilda now, but I did live in Mill Park. I've been a ratepayer for 38 years. Principally, I'm speaking because my friends are overseas. I spoke to them before I came here, and I only found out about this today. They live in McGregor Street. So basically, I concur with what Steve said about pushing back on the government, the Victorian government on this, and also I disagree with the taking away the car on Kerford Road, making it one instead of 2 cars, and I disagree with changing the bike path. I think that the gentleman who said that the bike path could be repaired, i.e. bluestones removed, I think that's a good solution. So that's... the main thing is because I have lived in West St Kilda and Middle Park for all those years, and I was a cyclist and a driver, which I'm not now. I walk everywhere and I notice things, and Kerford Road does get busy quite often, and I'm really concerned, as my friends are, about the cars coming off down all the side streets. And in McGregor Street, even now, the cars go really fast down that street, and they speed, and it's just like everyone has said tonight, it's going to be more congested. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I have 3 more on my list. I have first up Ron Burgraff. Can you come speak to us, please? Hi, Ron. Name.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you very much.
2 minutes, please.
It's Ron Burgraff. I'm from Middle Park, but I'm currently living in Port Melbourne. I come to speak against this bizarre, ill-conceived phoenix that keeps reappearing in various guises, ignoring the wants of locals. I'm disappointed that our public servants are once again following their own political bike lane agendas, despite this project being dealt with by Martin Foley in the community over 12 months ago.
Sorry, CEO. Can you speak to the microphone, please?
Through you, Mayor, I'd like to highlight that that's an incorrect statement to say that officers are pursuing their own political agendas.
Thank you. So I'll ask you to proceed, but you've been corrected on that item, and to not go back into...
Yeah, thank you.
That.
No,
I paused it, so you still have your time. And
thank you. Another ill-conceived idea from people that gave us a rubbish collection service that doesn't collect, a pop-up bike lane fiasco that needlessly enraged our community, and now a recycled shrine to sea proposal that will set the community against the council even more. April the 2nd, 22, I, along with many others from the community, went to a community engagement session regarding this project. I came early and even helped them set up their stand. I spoke at length with a lady and listened to her project sell-in, and then gave her my opinions on this concept. It's a major thoroughfare in peak periods. It already has wide bike lanes. Road narrowing will cause runs past schools and streets. It will be a problem for garbage and emergency vehicles, a problem for residents to wash and charge their cars in the future. It will cause congestion and safety issues and bottleneck at Albert Road. I made mention to her that she was not taking any notes, and questioned whether this was truly a community engagement session or the presentation of a fait accompli. I got no response, so it confirmed to me that the community engagement has always been a way of placating and justifying cockamamie council ideas, not listening to the community. This latest council ambush will not go unnoticed. Please don't forget you're working for the community, not against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. I call upon Terry Thompson, speaking 10.1. Hi, Terry.
Hi. My name is Terry Thompson and I'm from Kerford Road and Albert Park. In recognising the potential of the Kerford Road medium as a neighbourhood park, the Shrine to the Sea places the very people who are to be protected in harm's way. This potential park is bounded by 2 roads, and no matter how slowly the speed limit becomes, any car has the potential to kill. There are many safe parks within Port Phillip and on the seafront which do not run the length of a major road. Additional screening from plants will only exacerbate the problem. Emergency services frequently use Kerford Road. The long-term plan for slower vehicle speeds and one lane would seriously affect response times to the detriment of the people in Kerford Road. The Shrine to the Sea plan will substantially alter the amenity of the area. The present layout of Kerford Road has stood largely unchanged since 1950, when London plane trees on either side of the centre island separated by a wide grass area, with the exception of the paths put in by council. The beautiful heritage character of the street, which flows onto the houses, almost all with heritage overlay, will be at odds with a modern Australian garden filled with Australian native vegetation, which will require constant upkeep and gardening services to retain their look and diminish the streets. It is difficult to understand how this proposal would not impact the ability of council to maintain the streets, walkways and rubbish collection. The proposal intentionally places impediments to road traffic in order to reduce speeds. I do not see how council services, which rely almost universally on vehicles, could be exempt from this. And the residents would be doubly impacted. Deliveries, day-to-day activities, which almost all residents do from the curb to the front door, having no rear entry to their houses. My experience in this decision to change the nature and character of our street was made without consultation of the residents, that it took considerable effort for us to be heard in a robust and transparent way. I believe the current plan as proposed
Thank you, Terry.
will significantly negatively affect all aspects.
Thank you. The last speaker I have is Cameron Smith. Can you come down, please? Anybody else that's been missed? All right. Last one, but not least.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Cameron Smith, South Melbourne. I'm speaking to recommend that councillors oppose and do not vote in support of this motion. First, it's disappointing that we are discussing a well-worn issue where the community's voice is already known, tested twice before, yet still non-consultation has prevailed in this matter, as previously discussed. Secondly, this form of bike lane has been shown to be demonstrably unsafe and unappealing to cyclists, so much so that Marine Parade is now avoided for official cycling events where the pop-up infrastructure still remains, which is not a council matter. We know that, given that it's a state government arterial road. And thirdly, on this safety issue, it's also been shown to be unsafe to other valid users of public infrastructure, pedestrians, motorcyclists, scooters, etc. So we face an environment now where many people use their Google Maps to navigate and therefore also spend more time than they should, both legally and illegally, depending on how it's set up, looking at their phone to navigate when their eyes should be on the road. The strangulation of Kerford Road to one lane each way and the loss of more than 30 car parks will only see more drivers using the to-be seemingly wider Mill Streets and Victoria Avenue thoroughfares to navigate this critical east-west axis, creating a situation where more cars go past Albert Park and Middle Park primary schools seems a really poor outcome, and actually wonder if people are really thinking about the safety of children when we're talking about these bike lanes, because it will send those cars down to the lovely streets with the trams go down because they're wide and they can't have speed humps down them. So if we're really wanting to create a situation where more cars go past two primary schools that are very well populated, as one of the other speakers said, it just seems a really perverse outcome for the ongoing health and safety of the community and those school communities in particular. Finally, no, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. And thank you all. Thank you all. That was a lot to listen to, and I felt like you were mostly really respectful, so thank you very much. Dare I say we take a break? Just 5 minutes, is that okay? Yeah? So we'll come back at 8:05 for people online. All right, on to item 5, that's councillor question time. Councillors, do you have any questions you'd like to raise that are in general nature, not on any items on the agenda tonight? Councillor Pearl.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Could the CEO or officers provide an update on speculation in the Age newspaper regarding council's involvement in the purchase, alleged involvement in the purchase of the Australia Post site in Port Melbourne, please?
CEO Chris Carroll.
Through you, Mayor, I do have some confidentiality restrictions that I'll need to adhere to. All I can say is that council has worked with the state government for the best part of 11 years. I've been working for the best part of my 10 years on Fisherman's Bend as a key priority of this council. We've spent millions of dollars in officers' time and energy to come up with a framework and through a partnership agreement. And included in that was the open space with being a key priority for both council and for the state government. And included in that, in the framework and also in our public space strategy that was recently adopted, but also in the state government's own framework, is that Australia Post site was earmarked, well, allocated for future public space. We strongly support that, and we've offered to work with the government on multiple occasions at multiple levels to achieve that, and so far we've fallen on deaf ears, and that's probably as far as I can go into that tonight, which is very disappointing.
Thank you. Councillor Pearl.
Thank you for being so frank with that answer. And also on Fisherman's Bend, it remains very disappointing that the Fisherman's Bend Development Board and the state government are yet to provide any indication after 3 very long, cold years of the precinct plans. Has there been any update on that in terms of when those precinct plans are going to be released to?
CEO.
Through you, Mayor, I don't have a date on when they're going to be released. I understand that government is imminently, if not recently, considered those, and that the task force has asked to come and have a chat to us potentially in mid-September to have a conversation around some of those items potentially.
Thank you.
Any further questions from councillors? If not, we'll move on to sealing schedule. Councillors, we have no items for sealing on tonight's agenda. On to petitions and joint letters. Councillors, we have no petitions or joint letters on tonight's agenda. So we move on to presentation of reports. So first item is 9.1, Accessibility Action Plan, 2023 to 2025. Councillors, do you have any questions of the officers in relation to the report? Oh, Councillor Niagui.
I was just wondering if one of the officers could compare the proposed social procurement section within this Accessibility Action Plan to the LGBTI Action Plan that was passed at a previous meeting.
Sandra Chasm, I think. Nope, sorry. Oh, sorry, Alison. Sorry, get away a little higher. Hi, Alison Kinwood.
Through you, Mayor. To be clear, the social procurement policy that's applied through council is applied through all procurement activities, regardless of what framework that might be undertaken. So they are the same.
Thank you. Does that answer you good? Any further questions? If not, I'm looking for a councillor to move the officer's recommendation or something else. Councillor Martin to move. Who would like to second it? Councillor Baxter, thank you. Councillor Martin, would you like to speak to it?
Briefly, thank you, Mayor. I'm delighted to be able to recommend to Council that we adopt this Disability Action Plan. I also note that there's been wide consultation. There have been significant improvements to the plan as a result of that consultation. I pay particular tribute to the Older Persons Advisory Committee, which I'm a member. Also notice the LGBTIQA+ Advisory Committee has also made some major inputs there, and I think it's going to make the City of Port Phillip, and in particular areas of the City of Port Phillip like our Town Hall, where our council is formally in charge, far safer spaces for people with disabilities. I note that in terms of the action plan, we're looking at the best way of allowing those members of our community who may have disabilities in having input into changes and to be able to reflect on what's happening in the community. And I note that one of the things that's going to come out of the plan is the possible formation of a Disability Advisory Committee as one of 2 or 3 ways of giving greater access for people in our community to people in the disability space in our community to access into the decision-making process here in Council. And I look forward to seeing what's going to happen when that's resolved. But yeah, I think this is it's a fantastic plan. I thank the officers who worked on it. I thank everyone who's made contributions to it. I look forward to Council adopting this in just a few moments.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Baxter, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. I think this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. I'm glad that we've been able to make some improvements through it after consultation, as Councillor Martin said, and to echo Councillor Martin as well. I think the opportunity for an advisory committee to actually hear from people with actual lived experience with disability in the community will, I think, be a really valuable thing for council, so that we can have a look at our not just physical cityscape and things like that, which are all very important in terms of universal design, but other ways in which we make our decisions that can have impacts on disability.
Thank you. Any other councillors want to speak to it? I will briefly. My husband broke his hip this winter, so we have had a short glimpse into reduced mobility and the difficulties getting around. While he is healing, that's not the reality for everybody, but it's an opportunity for us to always be mindful of how our public environment, the public realm, operates for many users, whether it's temporary or forever, mobility, accessibility issues. So I think this is an important body of work, and I appreciate all the officers' time on it. Anybody else? Councillor Nyagui?
Yeah, I want to echo what's been said by everybody else. I think this is a really excellent action plan. A lot of work's been put into it by officers over a number of months. I hope that it can be supported by all councillors unanimously and doesn't fall afoul of some of the misunderstandings that were clearly present a couple of weeks ago when we adopted the LGBTI action plan. Ultimately, all of these plans are about trying to make our city a more inclusive and positive place to live for all residents.
Thank you. Last call for anybody speaking to this one. Otherwise, we'll go to the vote. All right. All those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Thank you. On to 9.2, swimming trial feasibility, the response to the notice of motion. Are there any questions of the officers in relation to the item? Do you have a question? Oh, sorry. Councillor Pearl, would you like to move this?
I would like to seek to defer the item if possible. Can I give grounds for that?
Yes.
Yep, so the original motion was fairly clear in terms of the instructions to be provided to create a swimming trail. I think what's provided here would be best perhaps considered through the budgetary process, given the budget implications of it. It's disappointing that the state government authorities weren't able to bend their minds, their policies and their bureaucracy to come up with an innovative idea that would have been quite nice. But I respect the officers' work. They've done a great job. They've done exactly what they we asked them to do. But unfortunately, in this case, we haven't been able to come out with a multi-government outcome to get what we were looking for, and that's fine. We tried our best to do this, but in terms of the steps that have been provided here, I think they would be best considered through the budget process rather than a standalone motion by itself. So, councillors, thank you for giving me your grace to consider this item, but I think it's probably best from here we consider it through the budgetary process, and therefore I'd seek to defer.
Thank you. Do I need a second? I'll need someone to second that. Councillor Bond. All right. It can still be open for debate, but Councillor Bond, would you like to speak to it? Sorry, actually, let me go back to Councillor Pearl. Can you clarify, is that indefinitely or is there a date?
It's indefinite.
Indefinite. All right. Thank you. Councillor Bond? Sorry, you want to speak?
I'll reserve.
Reserve, okay.
I wasn't going to support this, but I'm happy to defer it, and it can compete with every other project through the budget process down the track. So I'm happy to support the deferral by Councillor Pearl.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to it? Councillor Baxter?
No, I'll be voting against this. I don't see a need to defer. We've had a look through the documentation here, and it's clear that this is not really a project that has broad community support or even concentrated community support. We can't get partners. No one in the community is particularly excited about it or interested in it. Why can't we just say that we looked at it, we don't want to do it, and we move on?
Thank you. Anybody else speaking to it? No? I'll add, as an avid bay swimmer, I know there's many out there who are going swimming through the winter, good on them, that this is a growing body and a sustained body of people who want to do it. So if I liked the option 3 or C, having some kind of, respecting that they're there. And I thought it was better to maybe put some lockers in on the foreshore so that their stuff doesn't get nicked when they're out in the water. It's a real big problem. There are some cafes that are willing to hold keys and things, but it would be a way to enhance it. But I respect what you're saying tonight, Councillor Pearl, and perhaps I'll raise something like that in the budget. Sorry?
I moved the deferral there, didn't I? That's what I was doing.
That would be a procedural motion through you, Mayor. That would be a procedural motion, but we don't have a motion on the table. So we want this to be an alternative recommendation.
Do you want to move a deferral as an alt rec?
That's what we will require.
So that's what you... Okay, all right.
Councillors would need to have some words.
No, that's fine. So if I may, I'll move 9.2. So item 1.1, that Council defers this item indefinitely and for the proposed expenditure to be considered as part of the 2024-2025 budget process. Full stop.
Yeah, we'll just wait for that to come up on the screen. Thank you. Appreciate the governance. Considered in the 24-25 council budget. Was that correct?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go back in. That's what you're moving. Councillor Bond, you happen to second that? Can you confirm you're happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Bond, you're seconding? All right. Does anybody else want to speak to it, or do you want to... Let me see. Anybody else speaking to this? All right, you can close.
I'll close. I wasn't going to close, but Councillor Baxter made me close. It has lots of support. The report doesn't indicate any form of consultation that's been taken place, and I've been inundated by the level of interest in this idea, particularly from the hundreds of swimmers that use our wonderful bay every day, and that amount is growing substantially, and that's something we should foster, encourage and love. And the reason we're deferring it and putting it as part of the budget process, Councillor Baxter, is because it's not an insignificant amount of money, $52,000 to promote swimming, which I think is personally a good idea, but as Councillor Bond said, it should fight for that every dollar as part of our budget process. So by passing this motion tonight, we defer it. Take your point. It's very unlikely that the original motion around the trail will continue, but I still think it has very good community support from the people that matter most in regard to this, which are the people that swim every day. And now we'll be able to see if councillors and the community think that the $52,000 proposed here is worthwhile as part of the 24-25 budget process. So councillors, again, I thank you for your indulgence in considering the idea, and we'll look at it again in the budget process.
Thank you. Let's take that one to the vote. All those in favour? All right, that's carried. 1, 2, hold on, I'm going to count numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is carried because we have 7. Sorry? Oh, and then now against. Those against? 1. And those abstaining? Abstaining. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that has passed. It's been carried. So because we only have 7 councillors tonight, majority is still 5, but it just changes without having 9 people tonight. What? Sorry, quorum's 5. Majority would be 4. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So just everyone is on the same page? Good. Thank you. That's carried. Let's go on to 10.1, which is the main item most of you are here tonight for. Okay. Now, councillors, do we have any questions of the officers in relation to this report? Councillor Pearl.
Can officers rather tell me how many rounds of consultation have we had, or the state government run on this project, and how many government departments has this project been embedded in the now, what is it, 5 years since it was announced?
I'll refer to Fiona van der Hoven and David McNish.
And this is the Shrine to Sea project.
So you might have to go more into the microphone. Is that what you're saying? And is the button on? Red? Good. Just for the people online.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. This was initially with Parks Victoria, and that was transferred to the Department of or DECA, Department of Energy Environment, who were DELP at the time. So that was transferred in 2018. In terms of engagement, there was a Parks Victoria engagement. Then since then, there's been a community panel undertaken by DECA. There was also an engagement summary in 2021, and then this is the next round, so 4 I believe. That's available on the environment.vic.gov.au Shrine to See page. There's a link, I believe, in the attachments.
Councillor Pearl?
I think it started in Vic Roads, Department of Transport, then went to Parks Vic, and then went to DECA. But correct if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
The next one is the budget. So how much money has the state government spent on this project, and have they released how much money they've spent so far of the 13.1 million, and how much is left over for the rest of the project?
Through you, Mayor, I'll take that on notice. We're not in charge of the budget.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, officers? Councillor Baxter?
Thank you. One resident sort of yelled at us that we were acting ultra vires. Could I ask officers if there's any chance that that any of the decisions that are on the agenda for us to make tonight are being made outside of our powers?
CEO, you want to take that one?
Through you, Mayor, I do not believe so.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Nyagui?
I understand that this corridor has been included in our integrated transport strategy for a while. I'm not sure if it was included in the previous one, and that it's also a state strategic corridor in terms of a state strategic corridor in terms of cycling. I'm not sure when that happened either. Could officers clarify as to when either of those designations first occurred?
Do we have an answer for that one?
Through you, Mayor, I can answer that one. So in 2018...
Go a little closer, please.
Sorry. So in 2018, the ITS was adopted, and in 2019, it was included, classified under the state government as a priority road.
Thank you. Further questions? I have a couple. Some of the speakers tonight, I will take some questions that they raised. So clarifying that 12 months ago, they said that this project was stopped. That may be a rough, it may have been more than 12 months or maybe less. Can you give some context around if it's this project, if it was another version of the project? Please.
Through you, Mayor. The Department of Transport and Planning Pop-Ups bike lane sought to install a temporary bike lane on Kerford Road. This was not installed due to the feedback received. There was a decision made by the state government. This project is separate to that project. The Shrine to See Masterplan is a different bucket of money and being delivered by a different department within the state government.
Thank you. Okay. Someone also mentioned the trial of Montague Street and Herbert Road being closed. So it was that's our trial, but curious how it plays into this project and what maybe the next steps are for it.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, our advocacy position is consistent with the resolution of Council in 2022. The design response makes the trial conditions permanent, and that's consistent with the Council resolution of 2022. Testing of the options by DECA did occur in the preparation of the master plan, and officers did provide feedback. However, the state made the decision to align project vision and project principles.
Thank you. And then the last question for me is, what have we actually heard from the state government? What is the messaging they've said about why this isn't the bike lane? Is it forever gone? Is it deferred to a later date? What have we actually heard from the state government?
Through you, Mayor, on the letter Council received in response to our 1st of May letter in 2023, it can be found in attachment 3, the Department of Environment refer to the bike lane being separated from the Shrine to See Master Plan and to be considered at a future time.
All right, thank you very much. Any further questions? If not, I'm looking for a mover of... I'm going to move an alt-rec, so I'm going to do it. An alt-rec, do we have that on the screen? So I'll read it out so people online and in the crowd know what we're doing, and then I'll seek a seconder.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I didn't note my interest. So if I may interrupt, I just want to note that I have an interest in this matter in terms of I own a property on Page Street, which is near the area, and my extended family also own properties in the vicinity of Kerford Road. Apologies, I should have noticed that. So I'm declaring an interest. I'm not declaring a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Pearl. Sorry, I forgot. All right, so I'm moving in Alt-Rec, and it's up here. We'll page through it. So 3.1 says the same. There's new 3.2, which is advocate to the Victorian Government to work with Council to develop a comprehensive community engagement approach for any future project that proposes a bike lane and associated works on Kerford Road, not within the publicly released draft Shrine to Sea Masterplan. And if you can keep moving through. So it changes on 3.3 that it will remove the item of 2.8 bike lane from Beaconsfield Parade to Murray Street, Kerford and Albert Road / Albert Road Service Road. Then, I think that's supposed to be 3.4 if you don't mind going back and changing it when you have a chance. I'll read through it, but if you go back, please. But the next page... Yeah, so new 3.5, right to the Victorian Government to seek funding for interim upgrade safety measures along Kerford Road to help address repetitive crash history for all road users, including bikes, such as white line markings, green treatments at conflict points, and additional regulatory signage where appropriate. So that is the recommendation. Would anybody like to second that? Councillor Bond, thank you. All right, Councillor Bond, just keep my notes up. All right, I'll speak to it. We've heard from the community very, very divided views. It's important that we understand how our roads affect the locals, but also from that more zoomed out, how people travel through our area. So I do have a background or a degree in architecture, and that includes some urban planning. If I was to identify where our network should be connecting bikes, you have the beach, a great foreshore path, and you've got Albert Park Lake, a fantastic area. This is a good place to connect through it instead of going through the residential streets. Even though this is residential too, it's a very wide road. It makes sense that we could do something like this. I recognize there's a lot of different cyclists out there. There are people who are confident on the road. I'm one of them. But there's also times that I slow down. That's because I have my kids with me or any other reason why I might not want to be on a 60-kilometre-hour road. And that's not just about me, but that's just in general. We've got people who are taking different bikes out there, cargo bikes, you have adult tricycles, the recumbent. There's so many forms of bikes beyond what we already just recognize as a two-wheeler one, that they don't all fit on a fast-paced road, no matter how wide it is. However, I also think I like the on-road lane as well. I actually prefer that, like I said, at certain times. So... we do have a higher percentage of cars that use the area, but it's also important that we connect our area to allow all people to be able to use it. We have difficult parts in our road already that people have identified tonight on the on-road. We've got the bluestone that's actually in the lane, or it might go into the roundabout with confusion about where the cyclist is actually going. So 3.5 is to address, let's look what's there now and just tidy it up, make it work a bit better, because that should be able to deliver a slight better result. Now, I also do think the Albert Road service lane north of Canterbury Road has a lot of potential to be a low traffic volume road that could be enhanced, but that's not part of this tonight. My problem with curbside bike lanes, I'd like to deliver the protected bike lane, but on Kerford Road specifically, you have over a 2-metre wide drainage ditch that's bluestone that takes up quite a big width. It's fine for parking. It's probably not great for parking, but it's fine for parking. It's definitely not good for a bike lane. And the road slope that goes into it is a bit steep for those 3-wheel bikes that just might tip rather than on a flat surface that they need. And then it is complicated for a lot of the reasons people have outlined tonight. I know the officers have done a lot of work at our request to hear some options. I have a further option that really hasn't had too much time, but I've spoken to a few people in the community, and it sounds like there might be some legs to it. So that's the idea, that should we go down the path of anything here, it would be with community consultation, bringing the community along for the ride, the journey, everything about it, because this isn't a project we want to just ram in and say, too bad. It's the one that we actually want to do for the right reasons. So I'm hoping that people will support this tonight, because there's a lot of good items in Attachment 5, even if you take out 2.8, that we would like to have said on behalf of Council to the state government for their project. That's more the biodiversity aspects. It's an important one that I want people to, I hope that my fellow councillors will support tonight so that those elements can come in. We've removed the bike lane, and I know that's very upsetting to some in the group, but I think that this is trying to broker a deal in the middle that would offer some good parts, but also has a future that with our community, let's see if we can still look at a protected bike lane. Maybe it's not curbside. Probably not curbside. That's not my preference. I'll leave it there. I might close. But Councillor Bond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting your motion here tonight. Just to start off by saying a few things to address the Montague and Herbert Street closure. It's been raised a couple of times tonight by various people. I know some people said, well, Council didn't listen to us because we had a petition of 200 people and they only had a petition of 30 people. Speaking for myself, the reason I supported that closure is because the people that submitted the 200 signatures, their concern was having to drive 30 metres further to another intersection to get around to where they lived. The people that submitted the 30 signatures, their concern was having to ring an ambulance every 6 weeks for a car crash that was happening outside their house, having to organise for tow trucks to pull cars out of their front garden. So I don't think it's a like versus like. And in situations like that, we, or myself as a councillor, has to weigh up, all right, yes, you do have more signatures, but the situation that the smaller group are experiencing is much more traumatic than the 30 metres you have to drive around to get to your houses. And I know that may be an inconvenience for some people, but you know, that group who lived in Herbert Street were every month or so would send me pictures of the car crash out the front, would send me pictures of the police, send me pictures of the ambulance, send me pictures of these sorts of things, you know, often late at night, to say, hey, Andrew, there's another one here. When are you going to do something about this? So that is why I voted to close that Montague and Herbert Street intersection, and I fully feel that if we were to reopen that, those accidents that were happening and the trauma that was occurring to the people who lived there, who would sit in their lounge rooms and hear these crashes every 6 weeks, would resume. So just to clarify why I supported that. I won't be supporting the centre bike lane because I think it causes too much interference to the street as it currently operates. A reduction in one lane will drive traffic to surrounding streets. It will make garbage collection difficult. I know people outlined a whole list of things tonight, loss of parking, all that sort of thing, that would occur. So for that reason, I don't support the centre bike lane here, and I commend the Mayor for her motion to remove that from the recommendation here tonight. However, I would support a centre bike lane. If there's anywhere where we can build a centre bike lane up the middle and not impact a road, it's in this location. I know there may be some bits that require a bit of thought, such as Richardson Street or Farrar Street or Canterbury Road. I've looked at that and I could see ways that a bicycle lane up the centre would work. And in my view, it would work very similar to the Port Melbourne rail corridor, where it's not going to be a bike lane where people can do 60 kilometres an hour and race their friends back and forth, but it would be a casual bike lane, it would be a commuter bike lane where people can safely get from one area to another. In this instance, it would be from Beaconsfield Parade up to Kingsway and the Domain through some very tricky intersections. But I think we could make that work, and if that sort of proposal came back, I would certainly look at that and willing to work with people. The Port Melbourne Rail Corridor has some tricky crossings. The way Bridge Road and Ingalls Street, which is no different to Richardson and Canterbury Road there. So I know some would love to have that perfect outcome of a separated bike lane, but let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. We can get a very good outcome here without it being the perfect outcome for cyclists and a very imperfect outcome for everyone else. So yeah, I will support that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bond. Who would like to speak to it next? Councillor Niagui.
Thank you, Mayor. I read a quote the other day, actually, which made me think a lot about this debate. So I might start by reading it out. It's by A.E. Houseman. "The house of delusions is cheap to build, but drafty to live in, and ready at any instant to fall. It is, and it must be in the long run better, for a man to see things as they are than to be ignorant of them." And I think that encapsulates in many ways the motion before us tonight, this alternate motion. I think it is almost gaslighting our community because it's pretending that we are, as a council, continuing to be committed to safer, improved bike infrastructure when I just don't think that that is the case. We have, over the last little while, deferred and undermined a number of really sensible and reasonable cycling proposals. I think we've certainly at times failed to communicate with the community, and undoubtedly the state government with their pop-up bike lanes, and I'd say at times with this project, have also failed to appropriately communicate with our community. But ultimately, a lot lies with us in our lack of commitment, in my view, to this crucial issue. It's one of the issues that I ran for council for. I'm not pig-headed about it. I think there are places where it simply isn't appropriate. A lot of people have raised, for example, Chapel Street with me. I can't see any way that we would ever be able to deliver a protected bike lane along there, or even really any kind of meaningful safety upgrades. And there's a number of tram routes and other narrow streets around our municipality where that's the case. This road, I don't think, is one of those roads. I could go at length about the reasons why I think this road is an appropriate place for a bike lane and why I think in time residents would find this to be a really wonderful piece of community infrastructure that would be safer for cyclists, pedestrians, motor users, and would also deliver a bunch of new open space down the median strip. But I think in the end our council has stopped listening. And it's one of many issues, you know. I think in the last 6 months I've been kind of shocked at how conservative our council has become. It made me laugh. I think a couple of months ago the Spectator referred to us as the wokest council in Australia, and I laughed because I thought we are far, far from that. Our officers do lots of excellent work, and often the councils in this room do good work, but more and more I'm finding we are turning our back on what I think are the priorities in our community. We are unwilling at times to address the housing crisis. We are unwilling at times to address the climate crisis. And
Sorry, excuse me. Please continue.
Thank you, Councillor Bond. And at times we are now consistently finding ourselves unwilling to improve our open space in our public realm and our roadways and our footpaths and our bike paths. And I find it really, really frustrating. And I don't know what else I can do. And so reflecting over the afternoon, I thought probably, and I'm not a person to yell and scream, but I guess my only way of protest in terms of this item and the next one is to leave the meeting tonight. So after I finish speaking, I'm going to step out and I'll return after the next two items are considered. And I'm really disappointed by the direction that we're going in, because I think we're turning our back on many very reasonable requests from our community and many very reasonable proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Niagui. So this is, I find it quite perplexing that Councillor Consolo put this forward as a middle ground proposal. This is not a middle ground proposal. This is a kill the bike lane proposal with a couple of little extra bits on there to make it seem palatable. I think that what is very rarely brought forward in this discussion is actual evidence. So we have Victorian evidence, national evidence and international evidence, an overwhelming amount of it saying that separated bike infrastructure is safer for all road users. That means pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, all road users. The benefits to health and well-being, the amount of people that are brought out of cars and onto bikes by providing this infrastructure. Incontrovertible evidence to that effect. The biggest congestion buster you can build is to actually build safe, separated cycling lanes, because people will get out of their cars and get on that, which means fewer cars on the road. All of that evidence is on one side. On the other side, you have a number of people who have their thoughts, not really backed up by evidence. And I find it really frustrating to be told that this is about supporting bike infrastructure is a political agenda. We've got evidence on one side. On the other side, all we have is ideology. How can that be anything other than a political agenda, a pro-car, anti-bike political agenda? And we see people coming in and saying, oh, look, bike riders don't even use this road. Do you know why? It's not safe. That's why we should actually make it safe. There's no other road treatment that can increase safety and bring in more people than that. When we're talking about road use at the moment, all we're talking about with bike infrastructure is to make the use of that road space fair. Currently, on Kerford Road, there are 2 dedicated lanes for cars and a number of parking spaces exclusively for cars. What bikes get is what's left over from that, right? And there's also some open space in the middle, right? What we're talking about is here, maybe, just maybe, you can actually have some dedicated safe space for bikes. Cars would have to give up a little bit, but still have most of the road, the dominant amount of the road. And what people who are opposed to this are saying is that, oh, well, that's going to be fantastic for cyclists and terrible for motorists. Actually, it's a more fair breakup of the road in terms of who's using it and who's using it safely. What I've heard here is people coming in that are existing riders, generally confident road riders who are quite often men, to be honest, whereas I quite often heard from women with families who were saying, we wouldn't ride on the roads confidently because we need that safe, separated infrastructure. We've heard people come in and say, the community opposes this, right? Words like unanimous and overwhelming, right? All of these other people who came in and said we support safe cycling infrastructure, are they not members of the community? Because I think they are. There is no unanimity here. There are a number of different views. Some of them are based on evidence and some of them are based on emails that ROP sends out, right? We have been spending quite a long time, since 2018 really, with a plan that says to our community that we're going to make safe cycling infrastructure. That plan under this current council is not being enacted. We are lying to our community because a lot of people out there just assume that we're getting on with the business of building the safe cycling infrastructure that we put out a strategy for, that was consulted on and supported by a huge majority of the community. And this motion does more of that. It says all the right things and does none of them. We are completely betraying the community by having a strategy that says we're going to make safe cycling infrastructure, but for every single opportunity that actually comes up, this council is ready to say no. And it is extremely frustrating to be here with the evidence and with members of the community that want safe cycling infrastructure on the most anti-bike council in Port Phillip history. There are 5 solid votes against safe cycling infrastructure on this council, and there's basically no amount of evidence or information that can make any difference to that. And I thank everyone for coming in and having their say. We want to hear from everyone. I will say to the people who came in arguing for safe cycling infrastructure that I'm glad to have heard you, but the decision was made already earlier today. None of this made any difference whatsoever. No amount of evidence will make any difference whatsoever. The fix is in. The deal has been made. There will be 5 votes for Councillor Consolo's motion. Well, not 5 votes, a majority of votes, because we don't have all the councillors here. And that just shows you how much the councillors care about your input. This council has not started a single safe cycling infrastructure project. Not one. We have finished some that were started in the last council, but when given the opportunity, we are the project killers, this council. I'm disappointed that 2 councillors present here tonight did not recuse themselves due to their obvious conflicts of interest, but there's not much I can do about that. All I can do is do as councillor...
Sorry, point of order.
Sorry, clarification. Are you referring to me in regards to that conflict of interest?
Sorry, I'm not taking questions at the moment.
No, I'm allowed to clarify because it refers to a point of order.
Excuse me. It's point of order. Sorry, hold on. Guys in the gallery, please hold back. Point of order, you've said...
I'm perfectly within my rights seeking the councillor to clarify so I can then determine if a point of order is on it. Because if he's inferring that I have...
What's the number of the point of order?
If I can clarify. If it is being inferred that I'm the councillor that has not met our Code of Conduct, the Local Government Act, and my obligations under conflict of interest, that is probably one of the more serious allegations you can make.
Okay, can you clarify which councillors you're talking about?
I will wait until the number of the point of order is stated by Councillor Pearl.
Under the local laws, I don't have to do that in the meeting procedures. Read the section.
Hold on, let's everyone stop talking, please. Governance, what is the official... Stop, please. Hey, guys, can you please stop? Please model the behaviour of our governance rules. So I think they asked for what, Councillor Baxter asked for what item number under the governance rules for the point of order, and Councillor Pearl has said that it's for the Local Government Act.
So, through you can...
Yeah, please.
I think it's your call.
It's my call. Okay. I would like to have you clarify who you're speaking about so that we can understand if there's a point of order here.
So can I just clarify something with you, Mayor? We can now use a point of order to demand answers from other councillors in the middle of their speeches?
Sorry,
just to clarify.
Hold on, thank you.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. In accordance with section 49 of the governance rules, councillor raising a point of order must state the point of order and state any section, rule, paragraph or provision relevant to the point of order before... Yes.
Thank you for your patience online in the gallery. We're just going to make sure that we follow the rules.
Any section. It says any section. Right? I don't have to state any section. So it says any section, rule or paragraph or provision that is relevant to the point of order. So I don't have to state the section in the local.
All right, it is my determination. I think it's fair if you're going to make an allegation that we can understand who you're speaking about so that we don't misinterpret what you're saying. Can you please clarify which 2 councillors you're saying that should have declared a conflict of interest there?
I actually don't think I need to, but I'll go ahead and do that. I believe that Councillor Marcus Pearl has a conflict of interest on this issue based on the interest that he openly declared but has said that he doesn't believe he has a conflict on. I believe that Councillor Sirikov has a conflict of interest due to her husband's intimate involvement with this campaign against the bike lane. But forcing me into that in the middle of my speech...
Can you pause for a second? Okay. It's best that we adjourn. Yeah? Do you want to... Okay. Let's take 3 minutes, please, to adjourn. Mr. Baxter, you're still able to speak to your item, okay? I'd like to just, before you start again, I'd like you to stick to the item. I'd also like to say that it is up to individual councillors to declare if they have a conflict or a conflict of interest, and it's a whole separate process for an allegation of a conflict of interest. This is not the appropriate forum. So please proceed to finish off.
Madam Mayor, can I raise a point of order, please?
Yes, what is the point of order?
The statement of Councillor Baxter's to clarify is against or contrary to 38.1.2, and a councillor must withdraw any remark that is defamatory and indecent. You should withdraw your allegation of my conflict of interest.
I'm happy to withdraw. Councillor Pearl.
You've done the right thing.
Thank you. All right, thank you for withdrawing. Continue, please.
Mayor, so look, I was basically just about finished my speech, but of course it wouldn't be a Councillor Baxter speech without, bogus points of order
Let's stick to the item, please.
From Councillor Pearl and others. It's always the same, and funnily enough, Councillor Pearl always bullies you, Mayor, into accepting his bogus
Right, you guys,
point of order.
Hey, everyone.
Point of order.
Thank you. Point of order.
But, you know, good to see that you're still
Can you
following
please
the same
stop
patterns
speaking
there.
while we have the point of order and we deal with that, please? Councillor Sirikoff, you have a point of order? You'll have to reference the number, please.
Yeah, point of order, fact of error, 49.3 Part E, fact of error.
Can you name what was in error? You can't just say error of fact.
Well, error of fact.
Okay, I'm chairing the meeting. Please hold. Let's deal with the point of order. Thank you. If the same
I do
name-
not. We as councillors do not kind of are there to do any arrangements with you to support you in any illegal or uncoming way. That's the way that I interpreted your comment.
All right, thank you.
So disrespectful to the mayor.
Okay, well, I'll
Right,
make my clarification, as Councillor Pearl was able to clarify his own. I've never accused anyone of illegality in their interactions with the mayor. What are you talking about?
All right, thank you, everyone. You do need to take direction from the chair, and I will ask you to wrap up for 2 more sentences. Please stick to the item, and we're going to move on, because the people in the audience came here to have us have a civilised council meeting. Let's get back to it.
Okay, well, you guys can civilisedly kill bike lanes. I'll head off.
Thank you. All right, who would like to speak to it next? Councillor Sirikoff, give me a minute, please. All right, Councillor Sirikoff, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to recap a few things that have already some of the other speakers said tonight. Also a little bit of history behind all the meetings that residents have had over the last 18 months or so. On the morning of the 2nd of April 2022, both the Department of Transport and WELP, now called DECA, set up 2 community consultation marquees side by side on the corner of Kerford Road and Montague Street Albert Park, to seek feedback on the proposed 38 kilometres of pop-up bike lanes and the Shrine to Sea project. At that consultation, I saw many, many residents, about 100 or more, who turned up on a cold, drizzly morning to tell the state government officers that they opposed any changes to Kerford Road. Residents did not want protected bike lanes, nor a reduction of traffic lanes from 2 to 1 or reduced speed limits, and especially no loss of parking spaces, because they have to park their cars out the front of their properties because they don't have any access from the rear of their properties to park cars. As a result of these projects, there were 2 petitions to stop the pop-up bike lanes. One had 2,000 signatures, and the other petition was done by a Kerford Road resident, Heidi Island, who turned up tonight, who collected many signatures by knocking on doors and later presenting that petition to the previous Albert Park member, Martin Foley, and also the Department of Transport. A few weeks later, Heidi received a letter dated the 21st of April 2022 from DOT, thanking Heidi for her feedback and concerns and for her collating a petition on the Kerford Road design proposals of pop-up bike lanes, and to let her know that they would no longer be proceeding with the Kerford Road pop-up bike lanes. And this is a fact, because I have the letter that was sent to Heidi from the Department of Transport. So she did go to a lot of trouble to get the views of all the residents in the area. So the community were very relieved and pleased and thought that the changes to Kerford Road were over and off the table. However, 1 year later, in early March 2023, this year, 2023, DECA communicated to Council and to the public 5 designs for a protected bike lane on Kerford Road as part of Sea to Shrine project, or Shrine to Sea. And bike lanes were back on the table. But soon after, DECA reconsidered their position because of DOT's decision to remove protected bike lanes along Kerford Road. And DECA not only did the same, but it also separated bike lanes from the Shrine to Sea project. and to leave it for some time to be considered in the future. And that doesn't mean in the next 6 months, it means in the future, as in giving some time to reconsider how we're going to go about this, maybe 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 years. So, this wasn't a great outcome for the residents because they felt they had been listened to. But here we are again, back to where we started from in late 2021. Now a motion advocating that Kerford Road have protected bike lanes, reducing traffic lanes from 2 to 1, reduced speed limits from 60 to 40 kilometres, and some loss of 30 car spaces along Kerford Road. The residents are now bewildered and furious, as we've seen tonight, as they don't understand why council has not listened to them following all their feedback that had been taken up by Department of Transport, and DECA, who are not considering protected bike lanes as part of the Shrine to Sea project. Over the past 3 days, I've received a stream of emails and phone calls to not support this motion, only because of option 2. In relation to the protected bike lanes, reduced traffic lanes and speed limits. The rest of the attachment 5, which contains option 2, with respect to Albert Road, the residents are really okay with, as this is going to improve Albert Road and also the service roads connecting to Albert Road. Residents' repeated concerns are that the proposed changes to Kerford Road will bring problems not only to this road, but also to the safety and amenity of neighbouring streets. Kerford Road is a main arterial road, which connects with other arterial roads, carrying a lot of traffic from west to east and east to west, north to south. The aim of the Kerford Road project was to address the safety of children, pedestrians and bike riders. However, with the reduction of traffic lanes from 2 to 1 and reduced speed, this will have negative consequences of creating congested traffic during peak hours, especially on waste collection days, with rubbish trucks jockeying over protected bike paths and car spaces to pick up those residential bins. Delays for emergency vehicles and residents trying to access their properties during these peak hours. These issues will then lead to other issues with the aid of Google Maps. Traffic being diverted down side streets, creating rat runs, including along Mill Street and Richardson Street, which end up intersecting at and running past the Middle Park Primary School. Also increased traffic along Victoria Avenue, right past another primary school in Albert Park. This will compromise the safety of children, pedestrians and bike riders, with increased traffic outside those schools and downside streets. Cyclists have also voiced that protected bike lanes create issues for them because of the limited movement for groups of riders and difficulties in passing other riders. To accept option 2 as outlined in attachment 5, we councillors are completely ignoring residents' feedback and what was accepted by DECA and DDP. I'm not supporting the existing motion without an amendment, and thank you, Councillor Consolo, and that is to remove paragraph 2.8 from attachment 5. I will be supporting the amended motion to demonstrate that I and the other councillors who have also spoken, that I am listening to the residents' deep concerns both on Kerford Road and neighbouring streets, including drivers and bike riders. At the same time, we can still advocate for all the other items listed in attachment 5, including improvements to Albert Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors want to speak to it? Councillor Merton.
I'm getting very lonely on my side of the chamber here. I note that there are only 5 of us in the chamber at the moment. I won't be leaving the chamber, so there will be a vote, but I can't support the alt-rec. If the alt-rec doesn't get up, if I can be particularly persuasive over the next 3 minutes, I'll be moving the officer's recommendation because I believe it's the right and appropriate recommendation to go ahead. Listening to the speakers both for and against, I sometimes think I'm in an alternate universe. My understanding is that the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Change, DECA, has initiated a Shrine to See consultation. It's not a consultation that the council has organised, and that consultation is taking place over the next 4 weeks, that all members of our community have an opportunity to take part in that consultation, that every house is going to be letterboxed, there's going to be an online survey, there are going to be drop-in information sessions, there are going to be webinars, stakeholder meetings, hard copies of the Masterplan, all sorts of things available. So when there were suggestions, I may have misinterpreted the speakers, but it was suggested that perhaps council was going to do some secret deal tonight to implement a bike lane without any consultation. I'm not quite sure that's what's happening. I think it's a DECA project, and council, amongst a number of other players, has been asked to give its opinion, and that's what this debate's about tonight. The councillors themselves have a chance to say what they think, as has everyone in the gallery, for or against, or sitting on the fence, or in the gutter, as the case may be. So this is not a decision as to what's going to be happening. It's simply the 9 councillors, or however many of us are going to be left by the time the vote is taken, providing some advice to council officers to put in the report what these people sitting around the table think is something that should go ahead in Kerford Road. And over the next 4 weeks, lots and lots of other people have their say, and people wiser than us will no doubt make a decision. Having said that, I do believe the correct decision is to put in a protected bike lane. Now, I've been around long enough used to ride up St Kilda Road into the city when I was a school kid. I used to ride my bike up St Kilda Road to university back in the late 60s. And I've only felt safe in St Kilda Road in the last couple of months since that protected bike lane has gone in. So I've always been a very strong advocate of protected bike lanes, and what's happened in St Kilda Road has met with, it's not unanimous approval. I know some people are concerned that there are issues with parking and things like that, but certainly any of those of us who ride a bike, I think it's the best thing that's happened since sliced bread. And what I'd like to see is as many protected bike lanes as possible implemented across major cycle routes in the city of Port Phillip. As one of my colleagues said earlier, it's not going to work in Chapel Street where there are trams. It may not even work in Mill Street, although that's a bit wider, but certainly there are a number of streets where we can safely marry both protected bike lanes and traffic and parking and residents and pedestrians, and Kerford Road's an ideal place to do that. As the CEO of the Bicycle Network mentioned earlier, 20 metres of footpath, 20 metres of tarmac between one curb and the median strip. There are all sorts of things that could happen there. So, for example, if the state government with its benevolent money reconstructed the curb line, we can still keep a line of parking, we can keep a protected bike lane, we can still keep 2 lanes of traffic. So we can actually have protected bike lanes and 2 lanes of traffic if that's a major concern for people. As has been alluded to, if through the consultation process people jump on the bandwagon and think a protected bike lane is a great thing, it may well be possible, as has been alluded to, that if there are technical reasons or even safety reasons as to why the protected bike lane on the curb doesn't work, it may be possible to move the protected bike lane to the inside the curb next to the median strip, and we could have people moving up on adjacent to the median strip, as happens in places overseas. I've just come back, 2 months ago I was in the United Kingdom, had a look at a number of bike paths there. One of the models that they use is to have their one-way bike lanes running at either side of central median strips, and with suitable protections so they work. So I'd like our council to give a very clear signal to the consultation process that we believe that protected bike lanes are the way to go, not just in Kerford Road, but anywhere where we're likely to have a major cycle traffic, and that this can be done, I believe, without causing major detriments to amenity to the people who live in Kerford Road. We heard Janet Bolitho, the former mayor of the city of Port Phillip, say that we need to take into account the views of everyone in our city. And it's been mentioned a number of times that there are 116,000 residents in Port Phillip, and it would appear that there's people who believe that every single one of those people would vote against protected bike lanes. One of the speakers said there are only 40 people who ride bikes in Port Phillip. Well, I know the other 39, and probably several thousand others as well. I'm not sure that figure of 40 is correct. So, as a councillor, I need to act, in what I believe are the best interests of the city of Port Phillip, based on my interactions with people, local residents, other people in Port Phillip, road users who come through Port Phillip, who live outside Port Phillip, and my own experiences, and as someone who's been riding his bike around Port Phillip and its predecessor municipalities for more than 60 years, I believe that by far the safest place for a cyclist is inside a protected bike lane. The Shrine to Sea corridor is going to make a very, very safe corridor for people who are, for example, coming down St Kilda Road along the protected bike lane. They'll be able to turn left at Albert Road, down a protected bike lane, all the way to the sea, and then on that special bike path that runs inside the footpath down to Port Melbourne or back up to St Kilda. Totally safe way to get around a municipality. So there are all sorts of positive reasons as to why we should, as a council, recommend to DECA that they continue their investigations about a separated bike path. A couple of other numbers. People were talking about the number of school children. Somebody mentioned that there were 191 students at Albert Park College in 2005. There are 1,950 now. There are 122 at Port Melbourne Primary School in 2002. There are 850 there. So the number of kids riding bikes has quadrupled in the city of Port Phillip over the last 10 to 15 years. And it's all very well to say that, look, they're riding their bikes around, they're not being hit. And they mightn't have been hit yet. But sooner or later there'll be some nasty accidents. And if they're riding inside protected bike lanes, they're going to be safer. We had people talking about 60 kilometre hour limits. We can't stop cars travelling at slower than 60 kilometres an hour. I'm not sure how many of you have driven around the lake. Beautiful, beautiful drive around the lake. 40k zone. You can set your cruise control on 39 or 40 and have a very pleasant drive. No one overtakes. There's no aggressive driving. Can't see why that can't be happening in not just Kerford Road, but most of our other suburban streets in Port Phillip. I'd be looking at having a speed limit of 40 k's in as many streets other than major arteries as possible to give drivers more time to avoid collisions with cyclists, with children and so on. So all sorts of reasons why we as a council should be telling DECA to go ahead and continue to look at the separated bike path, and during the consultation process, it may well be that some of the things that have been alluded to already, removing the bluestone curbing to create an extra 2 metres of road space, or perhaps moving the separated bike path from the left-hand side of the road to the right-hand median strip. There are all sorts of things that could happen. But if we don't make that recommendation, and I know what Councillor Consolo is trying to do, I'm not going to be harsh like my colleagues have been. I think she's trying to come up with something that will, without having the Shrine to Sea bike path voted down entirely, get some traction, and I respect what she's trying to do. But I believe it's sending the wrong message to DECA, and it gives DECA an easy out to say, well, we just won't even consider separated bike paths in Kerford Road. The only way we can do that, I believe, is to support the officer's recommendation and then let the community and DECA work out how they're going to make that work. So I'm hoping my four colleagues have listened carefully to me and you're going to change your minds about after listening. We'll find out in a minute.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Pearl.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Shrine to Sea project, in my view, could be one of the worst and most ill-conceived state government projects that our city has ever seen. In my view, the project should be called the Shrine to Nowhere, not the Shrine to Sea. The project was announced in 2018 with a half-page press release, no plan, no community demand, no idea where the $13.1 million of taxpayers' money would be spent. And after 5 years, 3 government departments owning the project, 3 rounds of consultation, and potentially millions of dollars of taxpayers' money spent, what do we have to show for it? We have to show 150 planted trees and a number of plans and pretty pictures, and I assume some staff working on this project within the state government. It's turned into a bit of a saga which has lost the trust of many people within our community. And the pop-up bike lanes has done irreparable damage to bike lanes across our city and probably also the broader Melbourne area. So we have to go through a process now of rebuilding trust, rebuilding our credibility, and really clearly defining and consulting on any plans that we have for the future of bike paths across our city. And it's going to take some time and it's going to take some space. But once that trust is rebuilt and we do the appropriate level of consultation, or the state government does, whoever's proposing to build these in the future, I'm confident we will get a better outcome in the long run. But at the moment, this is the appropriate course of action. We can make Kerford Road safer based on this motion here this evening, but the Shrine to Sea project is not helping anyone at the moment. And really, whatever's left of that $13.1 million, and that was a lot of money 5 years ago, it's a lot of money today, but it's a lot less value that you can get from that money based on what's happened in the past 5 years with inflation, etc. And really, it's time for the government to stop the project, and if they want some value for that money, give us the money, and we'll invest it in worthy local projects that actually deliver great outcomes to the community, as opposed to thought bubble ideas on press releases that have no business case, no backed up plan, no nothing, and 5 years down the track, all we've done is planted 150 trees, which might add council would have planted under our own plan anyway. It's ridiculous, and no one wants to see this level of wasted money, of taxpayer money. Happy to support the motion here this evening. In politics generally has a large amount of distrust attached to it, and the behaviour that was witnessed here this evening, including my own, does nothing to help that. But so putting a politician, business person or anyone under that degree of allegation and scrutiny, and I'm very happy that Councillor Baxter withdrew his comments, but you can't just walk past that sort of behaviour, because ultimately if you walk past it, somebody else that's exposed to it in the future may not have the courage, ability or time to be able to stand up to that sort of behaviour. And ultimately, I apologise to people that had to witness that my behaviour in response to what happened here this evening, but I'm not going to let somebody behave like that, and I'm not going to walk past that sort of behaviour.
Sorry, can you please stick to the item? I know that it happened tonight, but please stick to the item.
Because we need to stand up for our values, and we make better decisions. And ultimately, good decisions are made when you turn up to a meeting and you contribute to it. You debate the motion attached to what is the motion that we see on the screen here this evening, and you stay and you vote for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pearl. Are you done?
Very happy to support the motion as we see it.
Thank you. All right. I'll close real quick because I think everyone's had the chance to speak. So it's still important, those small interventions on our bike lanes that exist, to make sure that they're even better and go with the community to discuss anything. I want to make sure people in the audience, people listening, know that there is that community consultation open right now for the Shrine to Sea project. So although the alt motion that we're about to vote on is removing the bike lane, there are still other elements I want to make sure that the community are aware of, that go to the Shrine to Sea website and please look at it and inform this state government with your own submissions. All right, let's take that to the vote. All those in favour of the alt-rec? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. All against? 1. So it passes.
Division required.
All right, all those in favour? Bond, Sirakoff, Pearl, Consolo. All those against? Martin. Thank you, everybody. Thank you in the audience. I know that was a big topic. We'll move on to 10.2, which is slightly related, being the approach to the review of the Move, Connect, Live integrated transport strategy. All right. Pardon? What? Or 1-all? Oh, sorry. I hope no one's going to watch it, but 1-all. Sorry if I ruined it for anybody. Very exciting. See you all. No. What did I miss? Are you voting against the... Okay, let's keep going. 10.2 up on the screen. Do we have any questions of the council officers in relation to this report? I see none. I'm looking for a councillor to move this or something else. Councillor Martin has an alt-rec. Can you read out the changes, please?
Hopefully, look, maybe I'll do this and read off the screen without wrecking my neck. So in 3.1, add the words amending action 18 of table 1 included in section 4.11 of this report to read as follows. 3.1.1, deliver a network of dedicated and continuous priority bike lanes to create safer routes for all ages and abilities, brackets targets of 4 corridors by 21-22 and 11 by 27-28, and where there is scope to do so, the italics are the additional words there, where there is scope to do so, consults with the community on the possible installation of separated bike lanes at these locations.
Thank you. Is anybody seconding that? All right. I'll second it for the debate. So somebody just do that. So Councillor Martin to move, Councillor Consolo to second. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you very kindly, Mayor. I was looking around, looking to see if there'd be a hand. Very pleased to see you, so thank you so much. You've heard me speak very passionately about how I believe that we need to have as many separated bike lanes as possible in the city of Port Phillip. I'm also aware there are all sorts of practical reasons why they don't always work, and we gave some examples of areas where that wouldn't work. So many of our major tram routes, for example, it certainly wouldn't work. Wouldn't work in the street I live where there's barely room for, well, 2 cars can't pass each other in the street. So there are, but where it is possible, wherever we're considering installing bike lanes, I believe that it's beholden on us to at least consider whether we can put in.
Going, Councillor Martin, please. Can you return to your seat, please? Thank you. All right, go ahead, Councillor Martin.
I'm feeling lonelier by the minute, everyone, but never mind. I'll leave here with a complex this evening. As I was saying before whatever happened, I believe that given that the data shows that separated bike lanes are infinitely safer for cyclists than any other form of cycle path, and that people's safety should be very high of our priority list. We should at least investigate any time that we're looking at putting in a new not a pop-up bike lane, God forbid, any time we're putting in a new bike lane, whether it's possible to make that bike lane a separated bike lane. And of course, we can't just go and do it without consulting with our community, and I mean consulting with the whole community, the residents of the street, other people in the city of Port Phillip, and try and get a holistic view as to what the people of Port Phillip think, and then based on both our own experiences and the views of the various people who we've consulted with, then we can come back as a council and make a decision about what we would do. So I thank the officers for the rest of the report. I didn't support this report 6 weeks ago when it first came to the chamber because I believed that it actually diminished the support for cyclists that appeared in the original version of Move, Connect, Live. I believe this small alteration gives a signal to our cycling community that we've heard their concerns, we're listening to them, but also sends a signal to those other people in the community that we're not just going to do things willy-nilly. There'll always be a consultation process. And it was suggested earlier that if I didn't listen to a consultation process, I could probably find myself in the big house for a very long time, and given my age, I probably wouldn't come home. I don't think that's the case, but I certainly think that if councillors didn't respond to their local communities, they may have trouble at the next election, and councillors need to bear that in mind when they're voting. So hopefully my 4 remaining colleagues sitting around the table will support me in this so that we can send a signal to our cyclists that we do care about them. We will consider trying to make things as safe as possible, but we're also telling the rest of the community we're not just going to do things willy-nilly. We'll always consult, we'll always have a look, and we'll try to do what's best for all members of our community.
Thank you. I'll go next as a seconder. I saw this very late, so I was taking a minute to think about it, and I'm happy to support it. I think it is a small change, and it's doing 2 things for people we've heard from tonight. One is it consults with the community. We know that's a strong value. We do that a lot at council on this item and all bike lanes. We know we have varied views, and this is something that we want to tell the community we're going to continue to do. And with the separate bike lanes, it's the possible installation. So I think it should be always said, oh, does it work here? Does it not? It doesn't mean at all instances it must be considered. So I'm happy to support this, and I hope that other people would be willing to support it too. The actual item we're voting on in general is endorsing this to go out to community consultation, the whole policy again, and we'll get a report back to hear what our community told us just on the policy. So I'm happy to support this. The next person who would like to speak, Councillor Pearl.
Just to say, I'll foreshadow in the event this fails, so I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Nothing else? Okay. Anybody else want to speak to the item? No? Okay, let's go to the vote. All those in favour? That's 2. All those against? 3. Okay, so that's failed. And division. Okay, so that's all those in favour. Councillor Martin, Councillor Consolo. All those against? You're recording this, right? Councillor Bond, Councillor Sirikoff, Councillor Pearl. Thank you. All right, that failed. Thank you. So, foreshadowed by Councillor Pearl, he's going to move the original council officer's recommendation.
Done. On reserve, Madam Mayor.
Oh, hold on. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bond? Okay, Councillor Pearl has reserved. Councillor Bond, do you want to speak to it? Sorry, I was not looking. Shake head. Okay. Anybody else speaking to the item? All right, you're reserved. Go ahead. Nope, nothing. All right, let's go to the vote. All those in favour? All right, that's carried. Oh, wait, sorry, no, sorry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's carried. All those against? Sorry, now it's carried. Thank you. Let me catch up on my paperwork here. All right, thank you. All right, so that's the end of 10.2. I believe a councillor foreshadowed he joined the meeting again after that item. Can an officer confirm, please? I know. Oh, actually, I don't. All right. While we're waiting for a councillor to return, thank you all. Oh, too bad. Okay, welcome back. We now are going to move some items on block. I do note that there's a recent report that's not encouraging them, but this is something that tonight we will be able to speak to all these items as well. So everyone can speak on all items, but we'll do the one single vote since it's been such a long meeting. All right, councillors, thank you for joining us again. I remind you that our commitment to the Code of Conduct and ask you to be mindful of the behaviour expected of councillors under the standards of conduct. Thank you. It's on, we're doing 13.1 through to 13.7 on block. I'm going to read them out this one time to be clear to people who might be listening. Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Report, that's 13.1. 13.2, Proposed Submission to Victorian Government's Property Valuation Averaging Mechanism Paper. 13.3, discontinuation of part of Mowbray Street, Albert Park. That's the Mowbray Street Community Park. 13.4, proposed discontinuance of road at rear to 182 to 192 Clarendon Street, South Melbourne. 13.5, proposed discontinuation of road at rear of 3, 5, 7, 9 to 11 and 15 Fitzroy Street, St Kilda. 13.6 is the Painting Services Panel Contract Extension. And lastly, 13.7, Records of Informal Meetings of Council. So, a unique situation to put so many on there, but I'm looking for a mover of all these items, Councillor Bond, and a seconder, Councillor Sirikoff. Thank you. Pardon? Yeah. All right, Councillor Bond, would you like to speak to it?
Only to say that it's now 2-1 England.
Oh dear. Okay, can you stick to the item, please? Councillor Sirikoff.
I think it's a really good move that those pieces of land in 13.2, 3 and 4 and 5, 3, 4 and 5. It's great that somebody wants them. They're going to do something with it because they're just idle and so they'll probably go to good use.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to the item? Councillor Niagri.
Just to say that in relation to the report from the Anti-Corruption Commission, which discouraged en bloc motions, I think part of the criticism was the lack of deliberation and understanding from the community as to what we were doing. All of these items have been released in report form. All the councillors present, to the best of my understanding, have considered them individually, and now we're going to pass them en bloc. But I can assure the community that we have given thorough consideration to each of the items, and that if you're curious about what we passed, they are all available on our website and at the council offices.
Thank you very much. Anybody else speaking? Councillor Baxter?
Yeah, I'll be voting against that. I think we should be dealing with these matters one by one, as the report from Operation Sandon put out. The overuse of en-bloc motions, and I believe that out of our past 10 council meetings, a significant number of them have included en-bloc motions. The overuse of it is something that should be avoided, and generally a marker that councils are not properly considering motions. So I'll be voting against this motion, and instead would like us to consider each item separately.
Thank you. Anybody else speaking to the items tonight? I'll just quickly say there's a lot of work that's gone into all of these. The Audit and Risk Committee shows a lot, just a highlight of what it gets done behind closed doors to make sure that we function properly. And other councillors have already spoken about the other items, but I'm happy with them. I don't have further questions on them from our council officers. They're very clear reports, so thank you. No further speakers. Let's take it to the vote. All those in favour? 6. All right, that's 6. And all those against? All right, that's carried. Thank you. Now, we do have a notice of motion tonight. Don't you look like you're ready to go, but we got one more there, Teresa. We're going on to the notice of motion. Oh, sorry, you are welcome to leave at any time. This is not Hotel California. Or the checkout, okay. Item 14.1 is a motion raised by Councillor Bond in relation to Middle Park VCAT decision planning implications. Councillor Bond, would you like to move this motion?
Yes, I would like to move the motion, and happy to read it out if you'd like me to.
It's quite long, isn't it?
No, the supporting information is quite long, but the motion's quite short. I won't read all the supporting information. That Council write to both the Victorian Minister for Planning and Shadow Minister for Planning and inform them of the 13th April 2023 VCAT decision, which recognises existing use rights at the Middle Park Hotel for the sale and consumption of liquor, which in turn allows the extension of the red line area, including to the proposed rooftop. In this letter, highlight that the implications of this planning decision by VCAT is to strip the City of Port Phillip of its previously held ability under the planning scheme to impose fair and reasonable conditions over some licensed venues and other businesses and properties where existing use rights are established, as per the precedent set by aforementioned VCAT decisions. 3, requests that the State Parliament restore this planning power to local government through the legislative process available to it.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the item? Councillor Niagui? Okay. All right. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Bond?
Just very briefly, I think most of us, or all of us, are aware of the decision that came back regarding the Middle Park Hotel. I was waiting till after the full decision had been heard, but as that's now been delayed through to November before that hearing will take place, and we've got no idea when we'll get a decision, I felt we should bring this to Council now and commence the process of writing to our elected state representatives and have them commence the process of amending the legislative process to give us back the right to impose fair and reasonable conditions on licensed premises, and I believe this precedent could apply to any other premises across the City of Port Phillip that has established existing use rights. I believe that this situation with a licensed premises is where a licensed premises is claiming existing use rights over the rooftop is occurring in at least 2 other cases in other municipalities. So it's not just the City of Port Phillip impacted here, it's all of Melbourne that's been impacted by this VCAT decision. So I think we need to get onto the state government and have them correct this. Otherwise, we will have no control at all over our licensed venues or any other premises in our city if this decision regarding existing use rights becomes the norm across our city and across all of Victoria. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Councillor Niagui, would you like to speak to it?
Yep, I concur with everything that Councillor Bond has said. I'd also note, I think that We did pass this at the MAV conference earlier this year, so I'm sure that they're busily advocating to the state government, but I think probably a direct route, or we simply write to the Minister of Planning and the Shadow Minister for Planning, I think it's probably also a practical step in this area, and I think it's important that we do get these rights returned to Council as soon as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Sirikoff, do you want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. I fully support Councillor Bond's notice of motion. The history, or a little bit of history, as a result of the amended notice of motion being voted up by a majority of councillors back on 28th of July 2022, and it then being challenged at VCAT by both the applicant and local residents, VCAT ruled in favour of the applicant's claim to their existing use rights. The VCAT ruling was unfortunate, as the unintended consequence of existing use rights and the successful precedents of the Kevik versus Darebin case now apply to planning applications where commercial businesses directly neighbour residential areas, means applicants will get what they want, despite literally differing circumstances of the lay of the land between commercial and residential properties. It is basically now a free-for-all, whether it is a hotel or any other business, to carry out existing permitted business practices in a magnified and invasive manner on neighbouring properties, including residential properties, as long as it does not go beyond the built form or with or without a rooftop. Because of the existing use rights, the unintended consequences are that residential properties have no right to object to planning applications where a business has been operating for a minimum of 15 years. The only route available to residents, such as for the Middle Park Hotel planning application, is to object based on amenity and heritage considerations. The planning powers must be restored and returned to local government so the existing use rights are not abused and not inappropriately applied when planning applications adversely affect the amenity of neighbouring residential properties.
Thank you. Anybody else speaking to the item tonight? If not, we can go ahead and take that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Thank you. All right. Now, item 15, reports by councillor delegates. Councillors, do you have any reports for councillor delegates tonight? Thank you. On to item 16, urgent business. The CEO is requested to raise an item. What? Yes? Sorry, delegate report? Yeah. Okay, we'll go back.
Just wanted to report that at the most recent LGBTI Action Plan Community Advisory Committee meeting, the committee unanimously endorsed support for Voice after 2 meetings of consideration. My understanding is they've written to a number of the other advisory committees, and I believe one of the other advisory committees has since also supported Voice, but we'll probably keep hearing in this space, and I know a number of other of the advisory committees across our city will be considering Voice in the next little while.
Thank you. Okay, on to item number 16, urgent business. The CEO has requested to raise an item of urgent business being confidentiality of strategic property matter. This item is confidential in accordance to Section 3 of the Local Government Act 2020 as it relates to A, council business information, C, land use planning information, G, 2, private commercial information, and H, confidential meeting information. Therefore, this item will be considered during the confidential council meeting that's following this one. All right, so item 17 is confidential matters. Councillors, we have 2 confidential reports being considered tonight. That's 17.1, which is CEO Employment Matters, 2022 to 23 Annual Performance Assessment, and 2023 to 24 Annual Performance Agreement, and 17.2, item of urgent business, confidentiality of a strategic property matter. I'll now call upon a councillor to move that the meeting be closed to members of the public, to consider the confidential items. Thank you, Councillor Martin to move, Councillor Bond to second. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Councillors, we will now conclude the public part of the meeting. I advise members of the public that there are no further open items to be discussed. This will be the conclusion of the public meeting. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.